I'll turn it over to you with regards to the acknowledgement of.
Well, I thought after we do the pledge.
Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, that's what I want to do. Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah. Because I
So
mean,
it's
that's
a
just
moment of silence.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
usually when when
Okay.
we used to do it at school.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
They're all. Oh, you good? Okay, good.
Great. You ready to go?
Yep.
Okay, I'd like to, my name is Tim Keeney, First Selectman of Summers. I'd like to convene the Board of Selectmen meeting, January 6th, 2022. And we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I have with me tonight Selectman Bill Meyer and Selectman Bob Schmidt, as well as our Director of Public Works, Todd Rowland, and our Chief Financial Officer, and Mike Marinaccio,
I thought you changed your name.
and the Finance Officer, Brian Wissinger, and also we have Chief John Roche from the Fire Department. So we have a time set aside for public comment. We don't appear to have any public joining us this evening, so we'll go on with the agenda.
Can I do my moment of silence?
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
With this being the 1-year anniversary today of the attack on the Capitol on January 6th last year, I thought it was important that we remember those people that I consider heroes that defended the U.S. Capitol, our U.S. Congress, and our Vice President at that particular time. Officer Brian Ziknick, he died the next day afterwards, after being attacked by the mob. And unfortunately, Jeff Smith, Howard Livingood, Gunther Ishida, and Kyle DeFreetag, I probably didn't pronounce the names correctly, those people have committed suicide as a result.
Were they also police officers?
They were also Metropolitan or Capitol police officers, and they all are no longer with us. So I just thought it'd be important that we had a
moment of
silence to remember what they did for our country.
Very good. Moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you, Selectman Schmidt.
Sure.
Executive session, we have none scheduled for this evening. However, I do have one I wanted to talk to the Selectmen about for next Thursday at 5:30. Just
okay.
Put that in your schedule.
Oh, 5:30?
Executive session next Thursday.
Okay, executive session?
Yeah, it's a personnel matter.
I got it. 5:30 next week.
Right. So next on the agenda is D, presentations by the First Selectman. First of all, I'd like to note that Hannah Soar, who is a resident of Summers and goes to school out west, I think University of Utah, she has just been ranked 7th in the world with regards to moguls skiing, and plans on competing in the Olympics. The Olympic team, this is a picture in today's Current on the sports page, front page of the sports page. It's a story about her. It mentions that the team actually will be officially announced on January 21st. The article basically is about the problems she's had with COVID and trying to stay away from COVID. And she's been, even though she's been very successful in her events, and she hasn't been able to celebrate her success because of COVID. So she is out in Utah right now and training as best she can on a daily basis. And I just wanted to bring this to your attention. Her parents, I had the honor of drafting wills for both of her parents about 6 or 8 months ago, and was a classmate of my youngest daughter Grace in high school here in Summers. So, another thing I wanted to mention, we have some new faces in Town Hall. Some new people started this week, officially started as employees. Andrea Vetrano is a sanitarian. She started on Monday. She's replacing Steve Jacobs. Because she has not yet passed her certification, she's in training for it, expects to pass it whenever it's offered by the state. Until she does pass it, another gentleman by the name of Steve Knopf, who has been a registered sanitarian, certified sanitarian for over 35 years, now retired, is going to be assisting her. The good news is both of the costs of these people combined is less than cost of the person departing. So there's no, even though we have two people doing this job, we're still saving money. And the expectation is that Steve will no longer be needed once Andrea passes gets certified in the state examination. The third person is Daniel Urban, who is been hired as the associate accountant to replace what's her name that just left? Marie Karen. And Dave Marty just started as a paid employee this past Monday. He did work the entire month of December under the tutelage of Ann Logan, basically learning on-the-job training. So he's up and running and he's looking forward to great tenure as town clerk. Those are my comments under my presentation. Next we have a consent agenda. I'm not sure we have anything on the consent calendar, do we, Brian? I don't think so.
I don't think so. Didn't look like it.
Yeah. Opportunity to add any urgent agenda items. Do we have any of those this evening?
I have none.
No. Okay, thank you. Turn to our CFO to give us the financial report.
Okay, I have a few items. Our annual comprehensive financial report is now finalized. It's been issued for the year ending June 30th, 2021. It was audited by Mahoney Sable LLC, our independent auditors. Has a clean opinion and no control deficiencies noted. That report has been filed with OPM, Office of Policy and Management. There's a lot of acronyms in the state. It's also been filed with EMMA, E-M-M-A, that's the Electronic Municipal Market Access. It's used for municipal securities information. It's a database that the rating agencies and investors use. And as a continuing disclosure requirement of our bonds to do that. And it's also up on the town's webpage under the finance section, under our finance department. So, also issued at the same time is the state single audit report. That is a report on all of our grants and amounts that we've received. So if you want to see exactly every single grant and its amount, it's all listed in that report. Our entire entitlement. Say that fast 5 times. There's no instance, that is also a clean opinion. There's no instances of non-compliance, and there is no management letter associated with that which would have internal control improvement opportunities in it. So we were pretty clean on both reports. So I feel very proud of my team and everyone, every director has managed their budget and the way we've managed in town. So
yeah, I've been very impressed myself with the results of the reports, and I encourage people to review them if they have any interest in doing so.
They're both up online, so people have access to them online, and they'll be filed with the town clerk's office once we get a hard copy in the office.
yeah, and just by way of a commentary, there's just so much information in that report. I know it sounds like a boring, and it's probably, unless you're an accountant, you're probably thinking, oh my God, why would I ever want to read this? But it is filled with all kinds of informative information about the town, so.
Well, again, one of the most interesting elements is the fact that the pension plan for town employees is 120% funded.
Yep, yep.
That's just an indicator
Yep.
of, how things are going.
Good to hear.
Next item up, is, at midterm, we're at mid-year now for, budget fiscal year of 2022. Just a quick highlight, on my part. We're gonna get into more detail with this, at the Board of Finance, this Tuesday. The town, on the expenditure side, our general fund spend, is, that's not counting Board of Ed, no, it's just the town, is 47.6% of our budget, so we're less than half spending halfway through, just on a trend analysis.
Now, Mike, does that include encumbrances or is that actuals?
There's only one encumbrance actually out there right now, so it does not include it, but the encumbrance is only about $1,600, so it wouldn't change the
It's not
percentage.
material, yeah.
So what does that indicate? I mean, that's
Well, it gives you an idea, I mean, if you were
47.6%.
trending,
51 or 52%.
51, 52, you'd have to start really, looking under the covers. I mean, just a quick glance at each department, everybody is within budget, so you're comfortable with that trend. Now, if you go through a winter, with a comfortable, movement, and you're not spending too much on overtime and plowing and things like that, and if you're not met with any unanticipated repairs, and purchases, then we're on budget. And in fact, we're probably a little bit below, budget. Cause our overall spending year to date is 3% lower than last year at this time, so that's a good sign.
Great.
On the revenue side, we've collected a little bit over, or we have received 22.5 million, a little bit over 22,574,068 dollars, and that's about 64% of our budgeted revenues. And our taxes makes up about 80% of that, or a little bit more than $18 million. I've got all that information in the monthly reports that I've sent on to you earlier today.
Right.
Because of the holiday and everything, we didn't get them in right around the 1st, but we got them in this week, so
Thank you.
sorry we didn't get them in time to
Right.
get them out to everybody. But if you have any questions after you look at them, feel free to contact us.
Do you have a set for me too, or is it just for Tim?
Another item I have is,
Okay,
Yeah, I don't think
thank
I
you.
got it either,
Yeah.
although, yeah.
We would have had them emailed, but Tim's out of town.
Yeah, you can email it
I
to
can
me.
get it to you after
Tim will
the
send them
meeting.
out there.
so-
Okay, yeah, sure, that's fine, no
Yeah,
rush, I just was
have
asking.
Kim,
Thank you.
Yeah.
She wasn't in today, so.
Yep.
Tax collector, the tax collector report, I'm just giving you some highlights, and then probably pull them out of the monthly reports here, but our tax collector, reports that, we've collected about 3.7 million in taxes in the month of December. You know, this is the highest December we've ever had for collections on record. 3 years ago, we started sending out, reminder notices and supplemental bills in December, early December, rather than wait until January. And so that's one of the primary reasons why that's happened. The other one is we are aggressive, with our collection efforts, for delinquent amounts. We try not to let them, languish. We go after that money quickly. We send it off to the marshal, he goes and collects. And then based on historical information, we're projecting a tax collection rate of about 99.6% on our current year levy, so
Great.
it's pretty.
Tremendous.
Good number. The assessor, the assessor's been preparing the grand list, which has to be filed by February 1st. But just in terms of sheer transactions, their processing of property transfers is up 3%. Their bill from last year, their building permits, and we're not talking huge numbers, we're talking like 35, 40, transactions. Building permits are down 3%, they have corrections to their records are down a lot, 26%, which is good. So it's plus or minus 3%. The assessor, is going to be deposed, this month, in regard, in connection with the Bilton Road, solar array appeal.
Mm-hmm.
So there'll be, that's an active case right now. I think, Selectman Keeney, along with our attorney and the assessor toured that site this week.
Did on Wednesday.
Yeah, And, let's see, what else? So we have the Board of Finance meeting I alluded to on Tuesday. We sent the agenda out, just before I came down here. Finally got to that today, and I sent that out. And, yesterday, our IT, Suzer IT started. So we have an IT function here in Town Hall.
Oh, really? They started, that's great.
They started yesterday.
Oh,
yeah.
fantastic.
So, they'll be fielding all of our, questions and issues and.
Yeah, the first month at least is a transition period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're still working with Tristan to get all of the administrative rights and everything transferred over to them. Hopefully within the next week or two, we'll get an email out to everyone, with their contact information so people know who to reach out to if they have an issue with their computer or so forth. Right now it's still Tristan until they get, all of their administrative side set up and up and running. And then after that, they'll have, control over everything, and, if you have help desk issues, you'll go through them and not me anymore.
That's
Yeah.
very good, I'm glad to hear that, Brian. Not that you did a bad job, but thank you for doing all that extra work.
I did not do a great job.
Well, I heard a
Not
lot,
an
I
IT
heard,
guy.
I heard a lot of good things from a lot of people.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like services will be, improved as well, access to,
Yep.
services, and sounds like the cost might be
And
some cost savings as well.
response to needs will be a lot
More
higher
timely,
as well.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Now,
Yeah.
I know with IT governance, I mean, what are you thinking, 30 days, 60 days? I mean, when's gonna be a good time? When will Suzer have a good feel and be able to kinda give us a report? I know they're
So-
doing these director of IT services, which,
So I tasked them to get me a list of, hardware in town, computers and so forth that are literally at the end of their leg. And to get, a proposal together for Office 365, and I said I would like to have that by the end of January. If they could task me, get me your 10, 15 worst computers in town that need to be replaced as, like 3 years ago kind of thing, and get me a quote on 365, and then that way we can come to governance with some kind of data, hopefully in February, to come to and say, this is where we stand right now, this is our current assessment, this is what we see over the next 3 months, the next 6 months, next 12 months, and where we go from there.
okay, and then, I mean, I'm interested a lot too in the big ticket items, like switches,
Yep.
servers, fiber connectivity.
So a lot of the servers are brand new, within the last year. New out of the box, I would say.
Yeah, no, I remember
They
when
were
we bought
probably
them.
2-year-old
I remember when we bought
technology
them.
when they came
Yeah.
out of the box, but they're
Yeah.
newer.
Okay,
A lot of the switches in town, with the exception of Town Hall, are, 3 to 5 years old, so they're getting to the point they're gonna need to be
we can dive into those details, but I'm just
Yep.
saying,
Right.
like,
I think, Bill, you make a good point. I think they should be at every IT governance
Yeah.
meeting with us,
Yep.
sit at the table. They are our IT department now, and so,
Okay.
so that makes a lot of sense.
Brian?
And they will be delivering quarterly reports though as well, so, they'll be coming with assessments and reports and projections and so forth quarterly,
Good.
As well.
I'm just putting on my old registrar's hat.
And-
One of the things that I was wondering if they could look into, was always a problem in the 6 years that I was there, was, I'd like to know if we could get 5 computers designated just for the registrar's office. The reason being is, we have voter checklists that we pay money for, and, if every time somebody takes those computers after we use it, they usually clear off voter checklist. In the past election, we were working up until the last day with the, husband and wife team that own voter checklist, to get the, computers ready for the election. And so it would really be nice if we could get 5 computers that would be designated for the
Yep.
I don't know, is it okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
And my final item is, Tim already spoke about that, the new associate accountant, Danielle, started, this week. Before I came down, I asked her how her week was. She said it was great. I said, are you coming back on Monday? She said, yes.
Good news.
So,
Well, the good news was that you were smart enough to hire her as an intern beforehand,
yeah,
which
right.
allowed her to better understand what she's walking into, and
Yeah.
helped you appreciate, what a great employee she could become.
Didn't scare her away, Brian, in a week, huh?
Thank you.
No, she processed payroll on Monday, she
Right away.
processed,
Oh, good,
the
good.
scheduled
Ground running.
payments, the scheduled payments that are in here, 90% of them roughly were, she processed this week. So she dove right in on day one and had no fear of, you know, getting her feet wet and learning everything she could, so.
Fantastic.
Great.
That's great.
Has a bright future ahead of her.
Good, that's good to hear.
That's it.
Great. Thank you for your report. Next on our agenda is updates from boards and commissions. I'm not sure that we have any tonight.
Doesn't look like it.
No. Pending business, first on the list is discussion and possible action on approving recommended vendor for police body cameras and other equipment. I understand that we have received comments, written comments by Attorney Pat McHale, and the contract with the vendor is being revised accordingly.
Okay.
So that's not yet for,
Just a note, we skipped over the scheduled payments.
oh, I'm sorry, that was quick.
You wanna write the check?
I didn't notice it either.
All these that you gave us there?
Yep, give credit to Mike on that one. He caught
The
that.
problem is I already reviewed them before the meeting, and I didn't have any problem with them, but, yeah, we go over the scheduled payments, do we have a motion to, accept authorize the, payments as presented?
So moved?
Second,
Discussion. Like I said, I reviewed these, in detail with Brian today, and, got all the questions answered that I had,
I just got it, so
yeah, sorry about that.
that was just my fault. I didn't come in and get it, sorry.
I emailed it out yesterday, I didn't,
yeah, I saw the electronic version,
Yeah.
yeah, I reviewed
I'm
that.
sorry, I guess I missed it.
oh, okay.
There were a lot of emails this week, so.
Yeah,
that-
Yeah, I'm sorry, I must have.
Which is fine,
You know what,
I'd
I
rather
probably
have
went
the
to my
email.
other, email and I should've looked at that one. That was my fault.
But no, I'm all set, Tim, yep.
Great, okay.
Looks fine.
All those in favor of authorizing the payment schedule as presented, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Payment schedule has been authorized. Now, next on our agenda is the pending business. Thanks for correcting me on that last one, sorry I missed it, yeah.
Do you need us to sign, or
Oh, yeah, here it is, I got it right here.
before we run out the door?
You wanna sign it first there?
Sure.
Do you have a clean copy, does it have a note on it, or is it?
I think it's clean.
It looks clean, other than somebody here.
Oh, Mike signed it, okay.
Yeah, somebody said revised, and that's about it.
Reviewed.
No, you're right, it's clean.
The front page is clean anyways. The
Yeah,
rest of
yeah.
it's not.
Yeah, there's no-
We could fix that.
No
Yeah.
food on it or anything, yeah.
The totals are what we need, yeah.
Great.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Okay, pending business, discussion possible action on approving recommended vendor for police body cameras and equipment. Again, we have received at Town Hall comments from Attorney Pat McHale with regards to the proposed contract, and the vendor is in the process of making revisions, correct?
I assume so, I haven't
Yeah,
been,
well, that's what I've been told
I
anyway.
haven't been any part of this.
That's why it's not available for, final review and approval.
That's fine,
so-
they have until July 1 to implement anyway, so we're okay.
Okay, next on the agenda is, under pending business, discussion and possible action on town staffing and reorganization. I don't believe we have anything there as well.
Mr. King, can I just make a few
Go ahead.
comments?
Sure, right ahead.
I did some research, cause I knew nothing about this whole process, to be honest with you, and you had given us, some information, Mr. Keeney had the last time we met. I read through that again, cause I had received it a long time ago, but I just wanted to refresh my memory about that. I also tried to talk to various people that have, worked under the current system with Luigi, and, it was rather interesting, some of the comments, in terms of the overall comments, say he's a very good consultant, They felt he was, very qualified. They thought he was a cheap option, you know, inexpensive in that sense. On the, side that wasn't positive, they felt that there was a, lack of access to the man during working hours. And that created a problem for some people in town, because sometimes they needed an answer during 8 to 5, and most of the time he was not available. Also, sometimes they like to have seen somebody here on the site. I also got an attaboy for somebody by the name of Bill Meyer. Oh, there he is. That he was very instrumental in helping the, schools with, getting their, vaccination sessions up and running, and also, very positive things were said about Allison Maynard. But that doesn't mean that Luigi was doing it. So I guess the thing that concerns me about this is the fact that we have had other employees and citizens, and we know, Bill, because of all the good publicity you've had for the great things you've done over in Vernon, that, you certainly are a man to go to, and, we do appreciate that. So I guess what I'm looking at is, if I also talked to other people about the situation of South Windsor, and, 'cause that was one of the options that, had been proposed in the past, and I would really, at this particular point, since I don't have a lot of information from South Windsor at this time, and I don't know much about the, South Windsor health system, I was wondering if we could, you know, have some pursuit of maybe, again, for ignorant people like me, to talk to some of those folks, or maybe somebody else could talk to them, give us a actual presentation of what they did propose, in the past. I've heard many good things from a variety of people, about the town of South Windsor and their health department and how they do things. I've heard good things about they said that they thought that they could work very effectively with us. So those are the types of things that I don't have a lot of answers, to be honest with you. I didn't learn much from talking to people, but it makes me feel a little more comfortable that if we would explore that option, 'cause I'm not overly, sure that, Mr. Sartori is the answer at this particular point. I think he's kind of a Band-Aid. He's a gentleman that works full-time, and I don't know if he really has the ability, or our contract really has him, you know, being here. And, you know, one of the things that concerns me the most, and I just started to look at the results of who's been vaccinated in the town. And a couple of things that really stood out to me was the people under 44 and under. And, this is as of a week ago, 52% of the people in the 25 to 44 category were vaccinated, 18 to 24, 45%, 12 to 17, 47%, and 5 to 11, obviously, that's not been a high group at this point, but 13%. And, what I'm hearing, and I've heard this not just from a few people, is that parents are infecting their kids. And because of that, they're bringing into school. And then this has been created, and it's not just been this town, but I've heard it across the state, that now we have bus drivers that are sick, we have janitors that are sick, we have teachers that are sick, and I'm just very concerned that I'd like to see something done to address this. Maybe I'm overreacting, but from what I hear on TV, the next month or two is going to be going nuts with COVID. And then, I forget what the new name is, but the flu season is now come back with a vengeance. I forget what the new name is for the combination of flu and COVID, but you can now have both at the same time, which I couldn't believe, but it is possible. And so, I'm just saying, I'm just not trying to be an alarmist, but I'm very concerned about what's gonna happen in town in the next month or two. And, I know this is something that only happens, hopefully, you know, every 100 years, but it just really does concern me that we need to have somebody here on site, if we could, or somebody nearby, like in South Windsor, who would be readily available to help us out in a crisis. And that way, we wouldn't have to, rely on, this case, Bill, who did a tremendous job, and also other people that really aren't paid to do this. And, you know, like Allison, I mean, she's great. I mean, December 20th, she ran the, that vaccination session here, I give her just that's a real attaboy for her. And, so I would hope that we could try to, when we look at this, we could gather some information, because I'm ignorant, I'll be quite honest with you, I'm ignorant, I don't know a lot about this. And if we are going to end up, for whatever reason, in the next few years, if we run into any type of health situation, I mean, this COVID thing isn't gonna go away overnight. I'd just like to have somebody there who can help us and give us good advice, and it's not really an insult on, as I said to Mr. Sartori, he's a very competent man, just he's not here. And he's not available that often. So, thank you.
Well, thank you. I did, you raised several issues here. I'd just like to comment on them. First of all,
Sure.
I did speak with Luigi Sartori this morning.
Oh, good.
And it was easy to access, talk to him. He did give me and I'll just read it, basically it's a general scope of his responsibility. He's responsible as the public health director, responsible for all overall operation of local public health. As director, he's ultimately accountable for the administrative activities associated with the agency's performance of local public health services and functions. He examines all issues injurious to public health, cause such to be abated if, in my judgment, his judgment, they may endanger the health of the inhabitants. He institutes legal action and exercise all power for preserving the public health and preventing the spread of diseases. He ensures the public health code by authority under section 98A-36 and 98A-37 shall exercise the powers and duties of his office throughout his jurisdiction, meaning Summers, to remediate any threats deemed to be deleterious to the public health. So I understand the fact that people are nervous, the fact that he is not here very often, but he is accessible by phone, and he was very responsive when I talked to him today.
Well, it's good to hear, because that's not the report I had from other people in town, that they said that they could not reach him sometimes until after 5.
Well, again, I guess the question is, to what degree does he need to be accessible directly to residents of the town? You might know that better than anyone, Bill.
Well, thanks. No, and Bob, I mean, and I know we talked about this last meeting, I mean, the problem I think this board faced was that we were under a time crunch, you know, and, you know, we got sworn in and we kinda got handed like, hey,
Sure.
you need to come up with a health function in 6 weeks, which is,
Sure.
and over the holidays, over 2 holidays, you know, and I agree with you. I mean, I don't think historically Summers has provided their residents comprehensive services. In fact, I think if we were ranked statewide, we'd probably be one of the lowest in the state as far as our level of health services provided to our residents. We're one of only, I think, 8 part-time health districts, and, you know, it's not the comprehensive services. I mean, the culture here has always been to prioritize the environmental, you know, septic and restaurant inspections. The rest of it, you know, community health and those functions that are required by law have never been addressed in Summers. So, I mean, what I think we should do is, you know, we have the new sanitarian, we have the experienced mentor. I think, you know, maybe, obviously they gotta get their kind of feet on the ground, but, you know, maybe in 90 days, you know, we have a plan, and, you know, each of the statutorily required functions of public health to make sure that we can meet them. You know, break them down one by one. You know, what's our plan, and that's actually required by statute, that Summers submit that plan. So, and then we can see where we're at, you know, and see line by line what we're doing well, what we're not. I mean, the current director is a great person, experienced, but he has a full-time job. He does not have permission from the full-time job to work in Summers during the day. They're 2 completely separate jobs.
I understand that.
He cannot take phone calls during the day while he's working,
I understand that.
other than if he takes vacation time or he's on his lunch break. That's it. You know, I mean, at 9 in the morning, if he's working his job, he can't take a phone call from Summers.
Right.
You know, and that's a problem in a pandemic. You know, so I mean, but unfortunately, we were kind of dealt something on very short notice, and so
Right.
but I mean, the other thing is, we start talking, and kind of a segue, I mean, the other thing, I think one of the priorities of this board, one of the top priorities in my mind is leadership of the land use office. You know, and making sure that we have a robust land use, and I think we need to keep that in mind when we make budget decisions, because it ties directly into, you know, the public health function, because it falls under, there's no director right now for land use, and I think that that's been a a weakness that, I think you've heard it, I've heard it, I know
Oh,
First
oh,
Selectman
yeah.
Keeney
Oh,
has heard
I've seen it personally around my neighborhood.
And I've heard it from residents, I've heard it from town hall staff, I mean, I've heard it from the other directors.
Mhm.
I mean, I think everyone agrees that land use kind of needs to be examined to see what fits Summers, because we're kind of in a tough spot. You know, we don't need full-time for all the positions, because we're not big enough to justify it. So, you know, what do we need, I guess? And
Yeah, how do you do that?
how do you
Yeah.
do that?
We're,
Yeah.
we're in the process, I'm in the process of
Yeah.
talking to other towns, to see who might be available to assist us as a town engineer.
Yeah.
Whether it be part-time, full-time, whatever happens to be our need. And, that we're pursuing. However, with Andrea Vetrano and Steve Knopf starting this past Monday, I'm very excited that they're gonna do a great job, and they're gonna be a good team. And Luigi, I think, with a little bit of push by us, I think will improve his services that are available to us. And, to the extent that he can. I mean, I think you're right, he's, got a full-time job in the health district.
And I agree with you, Bill. Hopefully over the next three or 4 months, we can explore a South Windsor option or other towns or whatever we can do to see what the cost would be of these options. And to me, it helps me if we say, well, this is what Luigi brings us here, you know what I'm saying? Obviously, he's the cheapest option at this
Yeah.
point. How much is this South Windsor? What's that? If we would wanna look at the North Central, look
Yeah.
at the options, compare and contrast them, then make a decision. My problem is, I hear from my wife all the time. She's a nurse for 30 years, and she's on the Medical Reserve Corps, and she gives shots. And it's just after, she means well, but she says, what's this town doing?
Yeah.
And she's not trying to be difficult about it, but, she's in the last 3 weeks, she spent 3 or 4 days over in Windsor. She went to South Windsor, they had it all set up for the teachers, it worked as bingo, all the teachers wanted booster shots, they'd already been signed up, she came in there, they went right through all the teachers in the town of South Windsor.
Okay, I might just add that we did sponsor a vaccination clinic right here in this room 2 Mondays ago.
Oh, I understand that.
And we got 3 times the amount of people we expected, and we're gonna plan something additional in the future, however.
That's great.
But the health
Question is-
district ran the clinic though, right? The health district ran the clinic,
Right,
not-
we sponsored it.
we sponsored it,
They
yeah,
ran it.
but it was the
Exactly.
health district that.
correct.
That's true,
Correct.
yep.
Yeah.
And I
That's
guess
the
that's
first
what I'm
time
saying.
this town has run a clinic, I can
Well,
tell you
Ellison had
right now.
coordinated some prior, but I mean, it was Ellison and the health district that did them.
That's correct.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just, and I mean, we're only 8 weeks into our administration, with this board, so I mean, that's the problem. It's hard to fix an entire land use department in just 8 weeks.
Oh, it
So,
won't
I
be,
mean,
but yeah, I
but
understand
I
that.
think we all understand the work's not done, like, we've hired Andrea, and we're not, like, moving on to the next thing. I think
Sure.
that's gonna be something we're gonna have to continue
Yeah,
to
I'm glad
monitor.
we hired her, I think that was great, I'm really glad that we
Yeah.
did hire her, and I think we're making the right steps. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, to make the next step, I don't wanna make a mistake,
Yeah,
and I'm not in any hurry to do it, but the problem is, in the meantime, I would hope that, Luigi would give us any advice that
Yeah.
he has to help us through this next 2 or 3 month period, especially with the schools, things are blowing
Yeah.
up in the schools.
Maybe we could get Luigi to attend our next meeting.
Well, that would be
Sure.
absolutely
And,
fantastic.
Give us a presentation.
That would be great.
Next Thursday, I'll see what I can do to arrange that.
well, and I mean, I know during the pandemic, especially in 2020, at the height of it, I mean, the superintendent was trying to get guidance, and he actually ended up working with the health district. He joined the health, because I'm on the calls, he joined the health district's calls,
Yes,
and
he
he was
did.
relying on the health district for the function. There was no one in Summers here really helping.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's been identified as a problem. We've solved kind of the environmental piece, the septic and the restaurant inspection, but some of the other functions, I think we're gonna have to keep looking at. So we'll keep it on the agenda, and I think it's gonna be real important during budget, particularly with the land use director.
Yeah, that's gonna be a big issue.
But that's a big budget item.
Yeah, both of them can potentially be big.
The department
budget
head's a big budget item.
They
so.
sure are, and that's what concerns me about the situation is, then people are gonna say, well, gee, all the expenses are going up, but what can I tell you? At this particular point, you can't just let things disappear, you gotta act on it.
Yeah.
Services equals expenses.
Yeah, well,
Can't do it.
What's that?
Services equal expenses.
Yeah.
that's the benefit of the regionalizations,
Well, that's
the
true.
efficiencies with other towns. I mean, that's why, there's a lot of benefit. I mean, we have a proposal tonight for a regional, with refuse. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
there's a lot of benefits there, so.
Yeah.
Okay, well, anyway, great.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll go on, let's see, on to new business. First item on new business is discussion and action on the fiscal year 2021 State Homeland Security Grant Program, Region 3. Memorandum of Agreement and approval of resolution. Somebody wanna discuss this yet?
Sure.
That's Chief Roach.
I don't think it's turned on, John.
Any better?
It's always hard to tell. You hit the top of it.
Any better?
Yeah, it's better.
All right, so we're here tonight for the, Homeland Security Grant, also known as the Emergency
Thank you.
Management Performance Grant, EMPG.
There's another piece of paper.
When we got in,
Thank
there
you.
were some questions this came up a couple weeks ago at one of the selectmen's meetings, and there's some questions about how was the funding supposed to be used, how much money was actually gonna be allocated, how were we gonna handle it? And to be honest, we didn't have the right answers for the board at the time, so it was tabled. So I did do a lot more research with the help of the emergency manager, Kevin Reynolds. So we've gone through, we worked with the state, Homeland Security, figured out what the program is, how are the benefits, what can or can't we use it on, came up with a very detailed budget. I've been working with Brian on it. Part of what's a little confusing is they're on a federal calendar cycle, so they're calling it the FY 21 grant, but we're actually gonna have access to the money in FY 23 in summer. So that's why it's a little bit, we didn't miss years 22 and 23 yet. The numbering system's off on the two programs. Basically, the town of Summers for this year is eligible for a total grant. The total grant is $11,375, but it is a 50-50 grant program, so which the town has to contribute 50% first, and then the federal government will reimburse the town the additional $5,687. So we're working with finance. What we're gonna do is, once this got approved, the process is basically we have to sign, there has to be a resolution to allow the first selectman to enter into an agreement with the state. There's a draft copy of the resolution. They're very specific on the wording that they asked for. So I gave that to all three selectmen tonight. I was talking to them today. My apologies, I didn't get that yesterday.
That's all right.
So basically it allows Mr. Keeney, on behalf of the town, to enter into a program. We send in the initial application. They draft up a full legal contract for 24 pages. It comes back. The selectman has to sign it, notarize it. I believe Mr. Marinaccio signs it as well. It goes back to the state. At that point, we're authorized to spend the funds. We basically have any time from basically now until September 30th to spend the funds.
Okay.
Sounds like a lot of work for $5,553, but, you know.
Correct. So, but we're trying.
Once you've done it the first time, I mean, it's always hardest the first year. I mean, this is
Well,
not that hard
I
once
think this is a
you-
great improvement that
Yeah.
we're able to
So
identify what we
exactly.
want to
everybody
use the
knows
money
when we
for.
come back in
Yeah.
2 weeks, when the emergency management grant comes back, there's now going to be an EMPG line item for that $5,687. That's gonna be basically both an encumbrance and set up as a receivable from the state of Connecticut. So that way, in the past, sometimes the money came back, it went right back into the general fund, because it came by the time the money came back to the town.
So you're gonna put this on the
That's
revenue
right there.
side
That's
then?
it, yeah.
There'll be a specific revenue line item, and it'll be identified in the
Great.
expense budget as well, what it's gonna be spent on, and you'll see the.
But we
match.
don't put the match in the expense budget.
Right,
Cause we're using kind as the match,
right.
correct?
We're using
No.
the E-Bridge.
We're using the Everbridge.
No, we're talking, so it's saying.
You could do time, you could do whatever.
No, hold on. So, you're talking about the 5,600 they're giving us to spend. I'm
Yeah.
talking about the 5,600 we're required to kick in.
Yeah.
Correct.
We kick it in kind. So we don't budget
Right.
5,600 in local funds.
Correct.
We use like Glenn's salary, the 30, whatever, we pay Glenn overtime, or we pay a portion of his salary. That's the match.
We can't use the Everbridge expense as a match?
You're right, you could use Everbridge as a
That's
match.
what we're using.
And that was, the thought was, that it would be very
Yeah.
clean for finance,
Okay.
when the state says, where's your match? As opposed to pulling all those time cards, you could pull the one invoice and say, here's our match, and the state would
Boom,
be.
Fine.
done.
Fine, easy.
So this would just allow us to know when they say, what did you spend the grant on? Brian can pull a report on this specific line item, and we can just hand him a stack of receipts, so it'd be,
Sure,
should be
easy.
cut and dry.
Yeah, easy.
Motion.
So the only thing we do
Wanna
need
make
is
this
just the
motion?
resolution.
To accept the.
Just get it read.
This is exactly what we're looking for, this is
I'll
perfect.
read that.
Yeah,
Just read
this
the
is
whole
perfect.
thing.
Yeah, a motion to
Yeah, this is what we need,
adopt the
exactly.
following.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a plan.
Okay, I'll read the motion then.
That's good.
All right. Resolve that the town of Summers may enter into, with, and deliver to the State of Connecticut Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, any and all documents which it deems to be necessary to appropriate, and further resolve that Tim Keeney, as first selectman of the town of Summers, is authorized and directed to execute and deliver any and all documents on behalf of the town of Summers, and to do and perform all acts and things which he deems to be necessary or appropriate to carry out the terms of such documents.
We have a second for the resolution.
Second?
Any further discussion?
No, this is great, thank you.
This is great, I'm glad you did it.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you very
you
much
very
for
much.
all your work.
All those in favor of the resolution say aye.
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 Opposed? No, none opposed. Resolution is passed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Department of Public Works,
Who's that?
Mr. Rowland.
Okay, well, first
So
up on
discussion,
ours
go ahead.
is, the proposed capital improvement projects for the coming year. Historically, the process for this, and I sent you the big file on the CIP, the 10-year look ahead on the vehicles and also including some of the buildings last week. What the Board of Selectmen's role has traditionally been is to make sure that these requests are valid requests, and then they go on to the CIP committee where all of the funding mechanisms are discussed and thought about and whether they're funded at all or they get pushed down to the next year.
These are those ones you're talking about?
That's the big file.
Yes, yes.
We have a list of A through P for this year's requests to go on to the CIP committee.
Okay.
The first of this is the Historical Museum roof. I believe you all have copies.
Yes, we do.
J, one I.
We have that, yes.
That's letter A. This is for the replacement of the roof on the Historical Library, which is between the Senior Center and Kibbe. The roof is leaking right now. We've made some repairs to it over the last few years. They have been unsuccessful. It's a combination roof, or it's a hip roof, and it's also got flat areas. It's leaking around the chimney. So we're requesting $35,000 to repair that. We've had a quote from a vendor. We've had several vendors out.
And you've previously requested from the Board of Selectmen monies to repair the roof and if they're
Correct, yes.
unsuccessful.
We've made repairs in the past years. They were unsuccessful, which actually the vendor said most likely would be because of the type of roof that's on it. It's both tarred down and also asphalt shingle. So that needs also to be stripped.
And you mentioned that it can cause damage to the building, including the exhibits in the building.
Correct. The director is concerned about the leaks.
This is probably
to say the
the
least.
second oldest building the town
It is, and it
owns.
includes a lot of
and,
historical art.
No, it's a beautiful building,
It
yeah.
is.
What's the arrangement? Just, I don't wanna spend a lot of time on it, but very quickly, I mean,
It's a town building. It's maintained by the town. The Historical Society operates it, if you would. Similar to the library, I guess, but they don't have a.
do we have a
board.
lease or a contract with them?
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
Okay.
It's been there
We may
forever.
wanna explore some of that. I mean, let's table it, not today, but I'm just thinking, like, if there is damage to stuff, you know, as far as who owns the content and who's responsible, and,
Right.
you know, I
That's a
think
good
we
point. I
should
don't-
look at that, not today,
Right.
but put a bookmark on it.
Yeah.
Next,
Next one is the fire
do we need to vote on this individually?
No,
we'll
we'll do it all just one vote at
All right.
the end.
That's fine.
Next, B is the fire department HVAC systems. This is something we've been fighting basically since the building was built. You're all familiar with the history of the building. The last 5 years, we've been, DPW and the fire have been working together to straighten out the heating and cooling, as well as other issues in that building. This is kind of the final leg. We've got a mini split that's failed in the officers' room, and then we also have the heating, radiant floor heating within the building itself is, it was not installed well, let's just put it that way. It's clustered together in areas, and it has a lot of, there's a manifold that feeds different lines, and what we'd like to do is straighten that out. And you can see the verbiage from the vendor. We wanna put in a system to continually flow the floor, and so we don't have, cause we'll have, 100 degrees in one spot and it's 50 degrees over here. Makes the building very uncomfortable, and it's not a good way to operate. Plus, it uses a lot of energy where it shouldn't be, so we're proposing to, make these repairs, which will be hopefully the final repair for the building. There's always gonna be maintenance operating, but we're getting to the end of these repairs that we've been doing over the last 5 years.
How much expense do you think we'll achieve by going this route?
Savings
Yes.
on oil, probably anywhere from 5 to 7%.
Oil
Once we get
and
the building
repairs.
balanced out. And
Oil and repairs, right, I mean.
well, repairs should drop down dramatically, I mean, we'll be
No,
looking
my
into
point is,
oil and
you have
fuel.
existing repairs probably in your budget, as you do have for oil to
Correct.
maintain the building. This is gonna make it more efficient, which means there's gonna be savings.
And hopefully we don't
in
keep
your
getting these
budget.
surprise repairs all the time that we've been dealing with.
I'm just, again, a lot of these
Yeah.
projects have savings that hopefully
Yep.
will be accounted for in the budgets of the.
Correct.
No, it's a good point, 'cause a lot of times that
Division.
gets forgotten, and, it's just budget is normal, and, yeah, I agree.
Well, we'll get into that when we get to the budget.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
next one is C, this is the, actually C and D are similar. They're, LED display signs, one for town hall, one for the fire department. We've been talking about it for several years on doing something that's more dynamic with the sign out front here and also this in front of the, fire department. We have static displays now, which are only good for really one message at a time. You have to physically go out and move the letters around, and if you have enough letters,
I've done it.
it's been challenging, yeah.
And you got to deal with the weather as well, and.
Absolutely, weather. We had a vendor out and we had a demonstration in October. They're still working on a design. But we wanted to get this into CIP and at least start talking about it.
Well, that's why we're gonna put these aside, like, I pulled these out of the packet for a little more discussion.
Okay.
They're, in concept, not a bad idea, but I think that there's a lot more that maybe needs to get done before we just install it,
Sure.
because.
Oh, yeah, well, it would.
Believe me, I got a lot of feedback, and Tim knows, 'cause I called him, I got a lot of feedback from residents during that demo. What the heck is going on? Are they putting that sign out? Couldn't tell you how many people called me.
They're definitely a hot button issue for people that like the traditional look.
Yeah, so I'm not saying no, but like, I think that one particularly,
Okay, that's the town
we
hall
may
one?
just have to, no, both. I mean, anything we're gonna put on 190, I think we need to just have a little bit more of a it's not just a funding issue, is my point.
Right.
The question's not just the Board of Finance for funding, I think it's a question, is this what we want?
Right.
And again, I'm not
Absolutely.
saying no, I think we need more
Absolutely.
info,
Right, right. I don't
Well,
know.
I think there is a difference between town hall and the fire department, when it comes to
True.
emergency messaging and, the immediacy.
but they don't
and
use it for emergency messages, I mean, it's
Well,
never.
I'm just, what
Yeah.
would it be used for at the fire department?
That would be part of it, also the typical messages, but what do you?
Pancake breakfast Sunday, I
Recruitment
mean,
retention, so, we did talk, we are gonna try to put in for a volunteer recruitment and retention grant, see if we can offset some of the costs.
Test kits available at noon, that kind of thing.
Right.
yeah.
but it's not emergency, like, it's not, like, hey, shelter in place kind of thing, there's
Well, not that, but I mean, if we're doing a handout, if the shelter's
Yeah.
open, we could put that up during a
Yeah.
Alfred level event again.
Fire
If the nice thing about these is they're software based, so you can log in from anywhere.
I just don't think
change the
these should be in the first, I think we should gather some more public input,
Okay.
a little bit more, I'd like to run this in the newspaper, like, see what people think, before we move on those.
These two.
Both of them, anything on 190, anything in town, 'cause we have no other scrolling signs in town anywhere.
Right.
There's
True.
zoning implications, I know sometimes we're exempt from zoning, I mean, there's a lot of, this isn't a simple question.
Right.
Yeah, we would be exempt from zoning in this.
I know we're exempt, but just because you're exempt doesn't mean you do it. I mean,
Right.
we're not gonna put a roller coaster in the back and say, hey, we're exempt. Here's a roller coaster, or here's
How
a
much
Ferris
money
wheel.
can we get?
Yeah, 300-foot Ferris wheel, but hey, we're exempt.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, so
just me
Go ahead.
personally, I think it's a great idea.
It would violate our existing zoning.
I'd like to move into the 21st century,
Sure.
so it would be nice. I think it's a great idea. Thank you.
So how are we gonna bring this up again in the future? I just wanna get an understanding of how that was gonna work if
Well,
we
just-
pull it out tonight.
We'll just carry it to the next meeting. I mean, I think we gotta come up with a plan, maybe Todd can help us, maybe Jen Roy and,
Yeah, well, we could talk to Jen Roy about,
Well, if it's
how
exempt
zoning
from
was,
zoning,
I
you
mean,
have
should
to
we have
talk
a
to Jen
town
Roy, right?
meeting, or?
well, I don't think, just like I said, just because we're exempt, I don't think means we should just do what we want, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I think that if it's gonna violate existing zoning, if
Well,
it's
no,
gonna-
if it's exempt, it doesn't violate, so that's the definition of exemption right there.
Oh, I understand, but I think, I would love to hold like a public hearing on something like this, and
We're
like-
still waiting on the conceptual designs. It'll be
Yeah.
the same size, but we asked them to do something colonial around it. It would
Yeah.
still be the LED.
You're doing it the right way, Todd. I appreciate you doing this, bringing it forward, it's a great discussion, I appreciate, this is in the right place,
Okay. Well, how
you're-
about this, once we have the conceptual designs, then we'll ask for time on another Board of Selectmen meeting.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
We'll have better pricing.
I've seen,
And ask
I've
for
seen
public
these types
comment.
of signs in
Yeah.
very, traditional New England
Right,
towns.
right.
And the way they're done, they're not obnoxious, it's not like, you know, it's a neon sign
Yeah,
flashing at you or
right.
You
anything
can
like that.
subdue the lettering so
Yes,
that it's
you
not
can do the
bright,
brightness
you
differently.
can.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe it's one at the firehouse and not here at this time, maybe
Yeah.
try one over there, but
Again, I
I get
just
some more
want
information from the vendor.
people to see that, I don't want someone to say, hey, the Board of Selectmen, and then, oh, it's gonna be a bright neon sign, it's
Right.
gonna look like Las Vegas. That's not the intention here.
Well, I know you're not gonna have any strippers out there, you know, or anything like that, but you know, the point is, I'm just being
Yeah.
sarcastic, obviously, but the point is that I really think it's, one of the things that I do hear a lot of complaints about in this town, though it is improving, is people don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Part of it is they don't pay attention, but another thing is something like that can be changed quite readily,
Right.
and it's easily available, and most people go by, you know, on 190. I think it has the potential, and if it's not obnoxious to people, and the good thing in a lot of ways, really, town hall, there's nobody really like living right, there's not so many houses there, so it wouldn't be like so bright that you're gonna keep people, you know, awake in their house or anything like that.
Yeah.
I know over at the fire department, there are a few houses close by, but, you know, if you.
So it does have, and not to cut you off, Bob.
No, that's good.
I do remember when the vendor was out though, it has like, a nighttime mode.
That's
Yeah.
great.
It has a sensor, so it dims the lights
Oh,
down
I didn't know that,
at
that's,
night.
Yeah.
that's even better, that's even better.
I just wanna make
You
sure
don't need it
people
screaming at
know
night
all
because
these.
it's already dark, so.
That's
Uh,
right.
Other
there are-
towns have these, they're
Yep.
good. Yeah.
They're
This
pros
same
and-
company,
pros and
was it-
cons.
was it Danbury or Waterbury that was in there?
Danbury.
Danbury, they did the sign in Danbury,
Mhm.
the same exact vendor,
So I think it would be a good idea to get some public comments, so we'll go for that.
Yeah,
and-
just put it in the
Yeah, yeah.
newspaper, let people know we're gonna.
Yeah, I think the benefit of a public hearing, to Bill's point, is that the vendor comes forth with a few designs
Yeah.
Yeah,
and find out which is more appealing to the public, and so you get a pretty good handle on that.
Yeah.
and if they could show us some examples too, you know, like
Yep.
Danbury or somewhere else in a small town,
Yep.
of things that have already been put up, I think
Yep.
some people would say, oh, that doesn't look quite so bad,
It makes sense, yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Holland Fire Department.
Yeah, Talent
Okay.
Fire Department.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, there you go.
Right
Yeah,
down on
perfect.
95.
So
That's
if this does get pulled, if we do approve it somewhere down the road, when does it go back in? How does that work? Is it any time?
Yeah,
No
Yeah,
time?
anytime.
more or less, yes.
Okay,
Yeah, they take them on a rolling basis.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Next is fencing for the recycling center, the front fence. If you've been there lately, if you're going into the gate on the right, the fence is basically gone.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing left of it.
Yeah, what the heck happened?
The trees.
Oh, that was what it was,
It's
and
been
then-
falling apart for years. and
Okay,
it's been
okay.
expensive items.
Some years, 30
Okay.
years.
The trees have been falling on it, and it's
Yeah.
really to the point where we really need to do something. State law says we're supposed to have a 6-foot fence,
Mhm,
around the perimeter. You know, it's not terrible now, but, it's definitely something that needs to be addressed.
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
makes sense.
Next one is this floor.
Oh, boy, that's a dilly.
They'll put in wood.
This, we had this floor tested and there's a moisture problem working up from underneath. We don't think there's a moisture barrier underneath the concrete. This, proposal would include a locking system to lock the moisture out, strip the entire floor and then put down new tile after that moisture mitigation system is in place, so we don't have the tiles traveling around.
They literally move inches.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, every
Yeah, no.
time when we were doing registrar, you know, we used to have, we
It's
put
gonna
tape on
come
here,
out,
look
yeah.
at it here, look, we didn't even take it up, because you take it up,
Well,
you
take the
feel,
tiles, take
you
them
feel
out.
the tiles right
You
up
can
with
see,
it.
I mean, some of these are, they're in.
They got some, public safety issues too.
Yeah, they're tripping hazards.
Yeah, they really are.
Something that needs to be.
Yeah, you don't want somebody to have a nice trip.
Next one is the fire department, extrication tools.
Yep, so the next one on the list is the fire department extrication tools, the micro tools. I currently have a couple sets of these tools. The tools that we currently have, that we're looking to replace are 2007. One of the pumps no longer meets manufacturer specifications, so, the vendor said, it's gonna be basically cost prohibitive to fix that, and also the cutter has a cracked blade again, so we've been kinda sitting on that, hoping to buy time until we can replace the tool set.
So that means it's not usable right now.
One of them, so
Yeah.
we've got a second one, we only have one in service right now, normally we have two sets, normally we have one set of tools on each squad, and right now the second squad does not have a set of cutters on. We are looking at replacing the hydraulic system with a battery operated system, that actually does save the cost, we're able to reduce the cost from 55,000 actually to amended 143, because you don't have to buy the hydraulic pump and power unit, it's now just the tool with the battery right on.
They're a lot lighter too,
They're-
aren't they?
The tools themselves are a little heavier because they now have the battery,
Oh, okay.
so, But it is something that we do need, we do use them, we do about 85 accidents a year. We use serious extra cases probably 6 to 10 times a year. The maintenance is already in our operating budget, and I do have quotes for it would be a cutter, a spreader, a ram, which I have quotes for, and then the mounting brackets are about $3,000. You don't want them just bouncing around.
So right now, you just have one set of extrication tools?
I have one full set on squad 1, and I have a partial set on squad 2 with a combi tool, which if you're familiar with.
Oh, yeah, very, yeah.
So it's there, but it's not a cutter.
Okay.
So again, this is a situation where if the Board of Finance approves this after SIP review, there would be savings to the fire department, their budget.
Probably a little bit, it's lumped in the larger equipment maintenance item, but.
I think we'd be considering public safety.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think you would notice a savings, but this
Okay,
is public
just a
safety.
question.
We are trying to, as part of the CIP plan, we are trying to spread the tools out. So we're not buying like 3 sets of tools all the same year, we wanna space them out. Basically get 1 set of tools every 5 years, so we're not running around with, because when we first got the tools, we got an original federal grant in 2007, and we bought all the tools at the exact same time. And so now they're starting to get older, they're starting to fail. We had a couple that went bad a few years ago, we replaced some. About 4 years ago, we're looking to do once every 5 years, replace 1 set of tools.
You're proposing to have 3 sets of tools then?
It's called a set, but it's 1 cutter, 1 spreader, 1 ram. So they are 3 independent tools, but they make a set. So 1 cuts the car, 1 spreads the car.
No, I used to use them all the
Yeah.
time. I know exactly what you're talking
So
about.
we're looking for 1 set, cutter, spreader, ram. 1 complete combination set.
So we're not gonna have so you're not gonna have like 2 cutters, you're not gonna have like a combo tool or something?
No, we would not get a copy tool, again, we would replace.
I'm
the
just saying,
copy.
like, I remember there'd be times where like you're working on both sides of the car simultaneously, like you're cutting the A-pillar on the left side and the right
Right,
side.
so both of our squad, so the squad 1 does have a set of new battery operated tools that we got about 4 years ago.
Okay.
So that is a good set that I can rely on one side of the car, to your point. If I get to the other side of the car right now, I do not have a second set of good tools.
But so I guess my question is are you buying 43,000, is that a set of 3 tools or is that 1 cutter?
3 tools.
1 set of 3
That was
tools.
my question, okay. So
problem.
you're gonna have 3 sets of 3 tools, so 9 tools total. Cause you're saying you're replacing them every 5 years.
But you're not repairing some of them.
Correct, so we do not have 2 other rams, so we don't actually have.
I guess I'm questioning why we need 9 tools. 2 sets, you got my full support.
Yeah.
You know, 2 cutters, 2 spreaders, 2 rams, go for it. You know, but I don't know that we need 3 full sets of tools.
Correct, so the thought that we are trying to do, without getting too technical, is the new tools are battery operated, which are great for door pops and quick extrications and minor cuts. The 3rd set that we still have is hydraulic, so what's nice about that is that can run for 6 to 8 hours at a time. The battery operated tools only work for about 20 minutes.
So you would have 2 sets of battery and 1 set of hydraulic.
Correct.
Okay, so I just wanna make sure though that we're clear on these, like I don't wanna
Nope,
just
I
have
hear
tools
you.
laying around, like, okay.
So we would be a battery set on each truck, and the truck that goes first to auto access would also have the hydraulic set tools that's old.
Okay. And that hydraulic set's gonna be a combi tool?
The hydraulic is, cutter, a combi tool, and a ram.
So you're gonna have a full set of hydraulics, so you're actually gonna have 3 sets of tools.
Correct. I do not have another battery ram, so I would have 2 rams, yes, 3 cutters.
Alright, yeah, I wanna think about that a little bit, okay, we'll think about that, alright. I heard you throw out some statistics, I mean, I sent the email there back a couple weeks ago on the call stats, were you able to put those together, or?
I sent out an annual report to all the selectmen, and that had how many auto accidents we've had.
No, but I'm saying that I asked for EMS calls too, I just,
I
I
have
didn't,
not had a time to do that.
so, but you'll have that before your budget, you'll have the calls
I will
I
try to get as much as I can, I'm not sure if I can get all of the details of the report that you're looking for.
Okay, cause I know I had asked for them back when I was in the Board of Finance, and you said you didn't have any of the data, so like
Some of that, we're trying to get there, as we did point out at the time, we went to a brand new system, October 1st. So it reports and tracks some things from October 1st forward, but some of the data prior to October 1st I don't have.
So what, I just
I
wanna
don't,
make.
I don't have your list in front of you of what I can or can't.
Well, I have it right here. So I mean, easy stuff, like I'm asking how many ALS calls you did in summers last year, do you have that?
Not off the top of my head right now.
But I'm saying, I mean, can you run me that report?
Yeah, I said that, so we'll get that.
So, but I mean, when I asked for it 6 months ago, you said you didn't have it, so how many ALS calls in summers, you got that, no problem. How many BLS calls in summers, you have that, no problem.
There's gonna be an asterisk next to both of those, because They get dispatched as BLS, and then the medic gets on the truck and becomes an ALS call, but
Well, total number of EMS calls in summers, you're gonna have no problem.
Correct, yep, which I have, which I.
Total
presented
calls
to you
out of
already.
town, you're gonna have no problem.
What's that?
You're gonna have the total number of calls, no problem.
Correct, which I already gave to you.
Where was that?
I sent it out in the monthly report, which is also attached at the end of.
Oh, okay, I have that, 'cause I want the 5 years.
Actually, I can give you back, I think that report goes back to 1999.
Okay, and then total mutual aid calls.
Correct, and that's the one I was talking to Mr. Keeney, we're having some issues there because the data sets are in multiple systems. When we got dispatched and canceled, the system that tracks ALS and BLS does not track the call if we never showed up on scene.
But you use Nemesis, right?
Correct, but Nemesis does not require if you don't show up on scene.
Well, I guess it's subtraction, right? So you have all the calls that you did show up on scene, you have all the dispatch calls, and you just do subtraction.
But
and
I
you
don't
say,
know, I don't know if I got started for a fire truck and got canceled, or if I got started for an ambulance and got canceled.
well, I think it's pretty safe to assume you're not going to too many fire calls over to Stafford.
Not a ton.
I mean, you're probably doing one a month, maybe.
A few, yep.
Okay,
Two or three.
so I think if you said we did 800 calls in Stafford, we'd say, well, probably 12 are fire, and,
I still do, we can get you this number, but it's gonna have an asterisk next to it that it's gonna be approximate.
okay.
I think it's close enough.
That's what I said, I will do the best.
I mean,
already talked with-
it sounds like you've got most of them.
I'm trying to get the best I can.
Yeah, I mean, I would think, I mean, if I had to guess, I'd say this would probably take about an hour to put together, this whole list of questions I asked you.
Correct, but the brand new software doesn't have those reports at all, so it's not like I can hit a button and run the report, I have to create the report from scratch.
I mean, I'll help you if you want, just you got my cell number, call me, I'll come over to the firehouse and we can go through the different sets and, I mean, I'll even do the arithmetic and add it together, you know, your TN calls, your firehouse software calls, and your Nemesis data from your run forms. I mean, I'd be happy to go through it with you. De-identified, I don't need patient names, I just need numbers. Yeah.
This is working on it, it's just, as you pointed out, it's in multiple systems right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not hard, I mean, I don't think we gotta overcomplicate this, like this, I lived my whole life doing data, I mean, we did 23,000 calls a year at the police department, I could tell you how many burglaries, I could tell you how many murders, I could tell you.
And in your email, you were requested to have it by the 18th, and I said I would get it to you,
Okay, I didn't get a response, you responded, or?
I believe I did, I did talk to, Selectman Keeney about it, about verifying that I may not be able to get the exact number.
Well, just make sure, I mean, you gotta talk to me, I mean, I'm the one that asked you for it, so I think it's appropriate that you say, I received your request, Bill, thank you, I'll be working on this, and I'll have it for you before the meeting.
We'll get the best information possible by the
Yeah,
18th.
okay, great, I
Bottom
look
line.
forward to it, thank you.
Thank you very much.
This is one of them.
Yep,
Well, I won't have as many questions on the others.
I don't know which one's next on the list.
that's the
Next one
fit
is,
tester.
Alright, sure, so fit tester, so, the thermal imager or fit tester?
Thermal imager's next.
Thermal imager is
Okay.
next, so I would like to replace the thermal imager. We currently are using a
Thermal
Bowler
imager,
T1 thermal
yeah.
imager on our, we've got one new one on one truck, and the other truck is using a 25-year-old thermal imager that is the size of a boat anchor. So we are looking to get, I mean, we can't get batteries for it, we can't get parts for it, it doesn't work real well anymore. So it is time to upgrade that device. So we are looking to replace that. That is an infrared imager, allows us to see through smoke, it's also used at auto accidents, hazmat, things like that.
These are life-saving devices, correct?
We've had multiple saves with the current unit.
So, I mean, I guess my other question is, and I'm fully in favor of this, we definitely need these for the fire department, how many do you have now, and how many are you proposing to have?
That work, right now I have one that works reliably right now.
So, I mean, what do you want? What, you want one in each squad?
I
Is
would
that
like
your-
one on each squad.
So that's gonna be our long-term goal, is to fund one thermal imager in each squad.
Possibly, I would probably like to have one on the tankers as well, long term, like, 5 years from now. I get it.
I mean, two I'm good with. All day long, you say, Bill, I need two. If this is one of two for a squad, you got it. You know, I mean, third, fourth, fifth ones, like, let's have a little more
We're not-
discussion.
We're not there.
Okay, so this is to have a second one, so you have one functional one on the squad, this is the second one on the squad.
Other squad, correct.
Makes sense, perfect, thank you.
Fit tester.
What's that?
Fit tester?
Yep, so the next one's the fit tester. Again, we got this original fit tester in 2003. This is what we do allow to Bill's point. It's an OSHA mandate that we fit
Yeah.
test all of our members once a year on SCBA masks, our P100 respirators, or N95 masks. It can do all of them. It also tracks and does the auditing and the logging and all of that as well. We are trying to get, again, replace the old one. The old one that we have, they said it's gonna be, it was like $1,000 a year to calibrate the old one. With the new one, it comes with a 5-year contract, and they take care of basically everything.
This is almost 20 years old.
The old ones, it will be 20 or 19 years old.
And does it work? I mean, is it?
Does not work
Not
properly.
reliable.
Everybody will say.
Reliably, no.
Is the training included in this?
Yes.
We don't have to send someone to Alabama to get trained or anything? No,
Do it
okay.
right here.
I mean, so you have nothing right now?
Correct. Right now, I cannot fit test. If a member came in my door right now, I cannot fit test them. I have to send them out to get tested.
Alright, I mean, this
And
is,
sending them out would cost, $7,500 a year,
Yeah.
based on your figures.
I mean, you can do a qualitative, but I agree you need this. I mean,
You
this,
can't do qualitative for the,
not for
SCBA.
SCBA, but for N95.
For
No, you're
N95.
right. No, you're right, I agree. Okay, no, I agree with you.
I do wanna clarify, just so everybody is on record, that for both the thermal imager and the fit tester, we have applied to an, Assistance for Firefighter Grant Program to see if we can get funding for those two things. They were both in the high category, so we thought those were worthwhile going after.
Excellent.
Unfortunately, the extrication tools were rated as low for FEMA this year, so it was not worth my time and effort to put that out.
Well, I mean-
So what happens if you get the grant then? You just
That would be
stop the
That would
process?
be the funding source. No, it's still the process, you still gotta go to CIP, you still
Okay,
gotta get
alright.
approval of a project.
And there's
but
I
that
think
would
either a
become
5 or
funding
10%
source.
match, so this would become the match. It would be a little bit, but most of it
Got
would
it.
get there.
I mean, are you gonna, I mean, I really hate to wait till July 1, but I'm thinking, I mean, I don't wanna make an appropriation out of the general fund. I mean, you could have money left over in your budget where you can transfer 4 or 5 I mean, this is typically what, especially the size of your budget. I mean, you got 4 accounts that got money left, like, let's transfer them together and buy the thing in May.
Do not have enough for the fit tester, I can guarantee you that. And because of the town policy, it would still need to go through CIP and finance, the Board of Finance, because of the, dollar amount.
Yeah, the dollar.
Yeah, but but if you have a funding source, it's a lot quicker. I mean, right now, if they approve it, you gotta wait till July 1 because there's no funding.
CIP can come up with a funding source.
Okay.
You say you need it before July 1, CIP will.
And we are trying to, as I said, I did put in for the grant should hopefully have results back in April. According to the-
No, I've heard from a lot of members that this is a problem, that there's no fit tester, so.
Great.
So we are trying to address it, we tried one thing along as long as we could, but it's past life.
Makes sense.
Great. Road sweeper.
Okay, road sweeper, well, it's a repair to the road sweeper that is non-functioning now. We looked at, I got prices on a new road sweeper, which would be the ideal thing. I'm having a real hard time pulling the trigger on asking for $280,000 for one single-purpose machine. We have a year 2000 road sweeper right now, it's a mechanical sweeper. If we put $35,000 into it, it's drive motors, it's hydraulic lines, it's filters, it's the plumbing, we'll be able to get some more life out of this machine. We use it for a solid 6 weeks a year typically. We do supplement that by, we've been renting machines now because this one's down, has been down for a couple of years. So we think the best thing to do would be to repair the machine we have now and kind of live with it for some more years. When we do go to replacing it at some point, DEP's been talking about air quality, particularly with mechanical sweepers. They may move in the direction of having to go to a regenerative type sweeper, and that'll kind of force our hand. If we have to do that, the $280,000 would also include a catch basin suction machine part of this one unit, so it makes a little more sense to be a dual purpose machine than a single purpose machine we have now. But for the interim, it's a much less expensive way to go to make these repairs to our existing machines.
Makes sense.
Okay. Well, I mean, I like how you laid out the options. I mean, honestly, Todd, whatever you say, we gotta spend $300,000 on a street sweeper. If it's $15,000 to rent it, let's rent it.
Yeah.
And build it into the budget. But I
We're
like
doing
how
it-
you
The
thought
problem
this
with the
through.
rental is that
but
we
we're
don't
not-
have a sweeper, so when there's an accident and we need to clean a road, we're out there with brooms. We don't have any way
I'm
to
sure we
ticket
could work
it.
out with Enfield or Stafford and pay them $300 a hit or something, cause they got a sweeper sitting there doing nothing.
If they do, but when we use them as the spring, we all use them as
No,
the
I agree, yeah. No, nice, this is, yeah.
This is another case where we may be saving money in your budget if we make this repair, cause there's no rentals.
Correct, if the repair is successful and we can, we're
Yeah.
still planning on renting a sweeper for the next year, we wanna see how that goes. If we can hopefully still get parts, that's been an issue. But once we get the approval to do this, then we'll go through with the vendors and get all the parts and pieces and get this thing back up and running probably sometime in the spring, or in the summer and fall, cause we'll wait till July.
No, you did a nice job with it. This is well thought out. You got a good plan.
Okay.
Next one is Park 1-ton dump replacement. This is part of our fleet, replacement cycle, which is the majority of the CIP file, which kind of lays out the next 10 years for fleet replacement cycle. This is all done, on a point system, every piece of equipment in the fleet. There's 5 different metrics that we use to rate them.
Right.
and they come up with a score, total score being 25 possible. This is a 2004 truck that we would like to replace. It's scored 22, and it's tired. It's a frontline plow truck, plow sander, dump truck. We use these class of vehicles all the time, frankly, all year long.
If you can educate me, it talks about, heavy-duty parks department, 1-ton snowplow dump sander truck replacement. And then down under 6, it talks about a 14,000-pound dump plow truck.
That's what it is now. We wanna go up in class to a 19,000 pound, which we've been doing with our fleet.
Where's this 1 ton?
It's
What is
commonly
that?
known as a 1 ton.
Yeah, I'm just confused a little bit by that.
It's a bit of a misnomer. It's a
Yeah.
1 ton. Everybody, it's known as a 1 ton.
I'm used to 2-ton military vehicles.
But that was a misnomer too, because you can put 10 tons on those things
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah.
They're known as a one, it's a single dual wheel, smaller, it's not a full-size CDL vehicle, it's a non-CDL, below the CDL weight limit. And we've been changing out these vehicles with F-550s, Fords that have been extremely successful. Very, very durable vehicles. And we get the government package from off the state bid, so it's a very simple stripped, truck, but a heavy-duty truck that we're replacing these older ones with.
I'd say put this off to 23, 24, only because you're not gonna be able to get the vehicle, because there's such a backlog.
Well,
on,
that's the other part of it. It's gonna be a year before we, even the stuff we ordered last year, we're gonna be looking at April.
They
May,
shut all
June
the
before we
production
get it.
lines down, yeah, you
But
can't.
still, you gotta order it now.
You
No,
gotta
I
order it
agree,
now,
I'm just
but-
joking, I'm joking, yes.
It's gonna be, it'd probably be 23 before we see it.
Oh, yeah, it will be, yeah.
We have 2 that we're still waiting.
We're still waiting on, and last time they said April, and then he said maybe May or June now.
So you have to put the money up front to order it?
No.
Is that
No,
We don't pay for it till we
We
receive it.
appropriate it and earmark it, and it's there until.
You pay for it when you receive
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
It becomes not lapsing once it moves over to
Okay.
capital.
All right.
Exactly.
Next is the park pickup truck. This is actually a truck we bought used as a experiment, 5 years ago. At that time, the CIP committee wanted to try to save some money. We ended up buying a truck with 100,000 miles on it for 25,000. We could have bought a truck a new one for 35 through the state bid. We saved the 10,000. It didn't work out well. We've had to put springs and a new body on the truck. We've rebuilt the undercarriage of this vehicle. It's time to go.
I would say so, since you put in so much money, you didn't save a darn thing.
No, and we've looked at doing used, and it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And it's staggering the kind of discount we get, frankly. It's anywhere from 15 to 25% off list when you're buying the state bid on the government package,
Okay.
versus what you or I would go pay for off the street. It just makes a lot more sense to buy new, simple, heavy-duty.
Well, the benefit is you know what you got, I mean, like we were just saying, I mean, when you buy used, sometimes you get a home run, you get a great one, sometimes you don't, I mean.
The thing we saw with pickups in particular is there's 2 kinds. There's the kind that a big, like, O&G buys, and when they get rid of them, they're garbage. Or the mom and pop landscaper buys, and it's got leather seats and Sears radio, and all that stuff is tied into the computer, and when it goes bad, it kills the truck. I can't just disconnect it anymore. I'd rather have the government package. It has an AM, FM radio, that's it.
Yeah, crank windows, yep.
So that's the park truck.
Okay.
The next one is and both of these 2 pickups were on the list last year, but they got bumped down to this year. The next one is the highway
Does that give you
pickup
more credibility this year, because they got bumped last year?
truck. Well, like I said in my email, the bloodletting happens in the CIP meeting, so we'll see, I don't know.
Depends who you ask now.
It depends on who's there.
Well, it just depends on what the need is and what kind of funding. Same thing, this is the highway pickup, it's a heavy-duty 1 ton. This is an '07, it's been a good truck for us. This one actually is part of what we're proposing for the animal control vehicle. We're proposing to hand this down and take the body off of it and put a real ACO body on it. I'll talk a little bit more about when we get to the ACO truck, replacing that. So this would be used as a hand-me-down to the animal control officer.
Right.
If it gets approved to be replaced.
So you're asking for 3 vehicles total?
Pardon?
You're asking for 3 vehicles total?
For Bpw, yes.
But a lot of it's because it's been pushed forward,
Well, these 2 were pushed forward last year.
Okay.
And I don't, we'll see if they get funded then.
Yeah, at the end, we'll talk about how much money's available, okay?
Next one is the compact track loader. The one we have now is a This is, basically the Swiss Army knife of construction industry. Bobcat skid steer Bobcat is what it's commonly known as. We use it all the time.
What is it? I mean, what does it do?
It's a mini loader. It's a small, compact loader. It's got tracks, so it can go over, soft soil without losing. We use it for everything: paving, gravel, loaming and seeding, picking up trees that has a grapple on it. It's pushing 6,000 hours now. It needs, we're gonna put new tracks on it and all the sprockets on the one we have now, but it's really getting to the point. We have a hydraulic leak, so the mechanics gotta tear it apart again. The hydraulic systems are really tired on this machine.
So you're spending a lot of time repairing it.
Yes, a lot of repairs, and a lot of time in the shop, and that's really the opportunity cost is hurting.
Then you
us
can't
more.
use it, right? Cause you gotta repair it
And
all
it's
the
the only
time.
machine we have, in
Yeah.
this size. We don't have anything else, like
Yeah,
this.
I get
And
it.
frankly, if we had another one, it would be used by the parks significantly as well. So what we're proposing to do with this one is to get a new one and put this one into second line service as a backup and to be used if the park needs it, or frankly the school, cause they borrow equipment at a time, as well.
Oh, good.
So that we have some kind of a.
As you say, less strenuous projects.
Yeah, that's what, I mean, I'm okay with those things, I just think we've done that a lot in town, and then we end up replacing the same thing twice. So now instead of having one loader, we have two, and then 4 years from now, magically this one shows up. I'm not saying you, I'm just saying in general.
Right.
It shows up, and hey, we wanna replace this, cause it's old, and the schools use it now, and it's like, well, we only had one, now we have two, why are we replacing two instead of, like, we kept it as a spare, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, if we're to keep it as a spare, when it dies,
Right,
and then we have one,
right.
but one's all we have,
Right.
so, yeah, okay, yeah.
Next is the animal
Animal
control
transport.
vehicle. The current truck is actually a hand-me-down that came from Bpw a couple of years ago. It's a,
2004.
2004 one-ton Ford. The biggest problem with it is we took the cap off of the old truck, which went to Levy's, and it's just a typical homeowner utility cap, if you will. It's not a animal control body, and the truck is high. And the folks that we have now as ACOs are having real trouble getting into it. They have to use a stepladder, which is not safe. So we're trying to come up with a way. They would like a new vehicle, and both the police department and myself kind of said, geez, for the amount of miles you're putting on it, that's a really hard sell to us, let alone you guys or the CIP committee. Is there a better way we could do it? So we looked around and said, well, they do make animal control bodies that are, they're doors on the side of a body. Basically, it's a kennel on wheels, essentially. That we could purchase, and the Public Works can take the body off the 07 we're proposing to replace, put this new body on, and that would become your vehicle. Because they're only putting on about 600 or 800 miles a year.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense.
The truck is still serviceable for that. It's a lower vehicle, it's a GMC versus a Ford, so it is lower anyways. If we put the body on, it's lower again. It would have a real ACO body on it. So we're proposing to purchase an ACO body and swap it out with the 07 at a cost of $18,000 versus buying a new truck at double that, frankly.
So, I guess my concern here, the proposal, as you wrote it, looks good. I guess my concern, I wanna talk about the ACO program, because we spent a lot of money there. We just bought a garage, we just did a vehicle last year, now we got this new vehicle this year. How many dogs are we taking in a year?
I don't have that information.
I'd like to see the data. I bet you it's 10.
Oh, no, way higher than that.
Oh,
That
yeah.
we're kenneling and keeping?
Keeping? No, but do we kennel 50 dogs a year? Roughly, yeah.
I'm not blown away by 50 either.
Yeah.
We maintain a whole facility, we have staff, do we have the volume to justify having our own operation? I guess that's the question, so
That's a joint venturing is probably something to look
a
into.
lot of towns regionalize these
So
services.
shared service with a town like Enfield or something.
Yeah, or Ellington, or Stafford, or Tolland. Tolland could do it, you don't have to be, 20-minute response is acceptable on these, because the police will handle it on the emergency. If an animal's aggressive or a dog bite or something.
Does this pick up other, seriously, just curious, when we were first here, we had a, box sitting out on the.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm thinking about, because we were worried, cause the fox don't sit on a rock,
Right.
in your yard in the middle of the day. And they came by and they it was gone.
Yeah, they do pick up other than
And
domestic.
so that's what I'm saying, it's not just hounds.
Sure.
And, there's been a lot, where we live, there's been a lot of creatures coming into the neighborhood besides Mr. Bear, you know, and so on and so forth, which does visit just me the other day. But the point is I really see this as a good idea. I mean, I know you might be able to make a savings with another town, I wouldn't be opposed to that, but I really like the idea of having this, because it's just not dogs, and it's these other creatures that you're picking up.
Right.
And there's more and more things, there's bobcats now coming into town, there's all sorts of other things. Where I live, they're howling, they're making noises constantly, there's a lot of issues with creatures coming in, and you know, Doc Nero, when he used to live up, you know, on the hill there, some of the things he was taking pictures of up there, I couldn't believe what was in his yard. And so I think there is a good reason to have these types of vehicles on hand, because we're not dealing with just, hounds and, you know, cats anymore, we're dealing with some serious beasts, you know.
Sure.
Well, Bob, the only thing I would say to that is that, you know, there's a role that DEP has as well. I mean, there's a lot of like wild animals and things, like say a bear, for instance, or animal
Yeah, no,
control.
they're not gonna.
Can't deal with a
Oh, the bear, you know,
But I'm saying, even like coyotes, and, I mean, there's different, what I would like to see is like, put this one aside, like, let's get some statistics. You know, let's see what animal control's doing, you know, let's see what their volume is, let's see, I think before we keep throwing more money at this, I don't know, Mike, I don't know how you feel, Mike. Mike, you've been
Well, I
involved.
think you're saving me some work at CIP, so.
But I'm just saying, you've been here a long time, you understand some of this, like, what do you think about, we're throwing a lot of money, it seems like, in animal control.
Well, that truck isn't really that old, and just because it's not the right height, and, it just, I think it needs to be justified, I agree with you, so.
Okay, so let's see some more statistics, and let's see some more, I wanna see how many animals are impounded, I wanna see how many calls they're responding to, you know.
As long as we have one, that's my biggest concern, you know, you know.
We do currently have.
That's good,
It's not ideal, but
yeah,
we
that's
do
good,
have a
'cause
vehicle.
as I said, you know, a lot of people I know are complaining about the wild animals.
Okay.
Okay, the last one is a police cruiser, this is part of our replacement cycle.
Mhm.
Pet store, look up the rate.
This is the 2014 that we're proposing to replace, and again, we probably wouldn't see it until 2023.
Mhm.
We try to do it on a 7 to 9 year cycle, in summers. And it's just a continuation of the CIP program and fleet replacement for the police vehicles.
This just fits into your calendar or your planned,
Correct, it's part of the CIP master plan.
Yeah, we saw that.
This isn't the one that just got the motor.
No, we actually had the 2014 Explorer, but the motor blew up on it, we had to put a new motor in it, so we're holding that back a couple of years.
Wow.
This is the 2014 Taurus.
okay.
And that is it for the, CIP proposals.
So I guess my question then would be, Brian, what's typically, or Mike, what's typically the appropriation that's available for these types of things?
Well, I think there's a lot of funding sources available, and then there's a lot of competing projects for those sources. It's kinda hard to say. Typically, I'd say over the last few years, we were putting in, from the general fund to CIP around 300, then it went down to 250, then it went down to 200, and now it's back up to
It's at 250 this year. It's
So-
been as high as 650.
It's been as high as 650, and, I'm not sure what the bandwidth of the budget is to go that high, but we do have, more money in LoSiP now than we've ever had before.
Yeah.
And so we plan to use
Building
that
projects
for
qualify.
floor projects, that would be something we could use it for building
Floor
projects.
projects like this one here?
Like this
Yeah.
floor
Yeah.
here. We do have, we do have ARPA money that we can use on a historic building like the library's roof. They're gonna be putting in a proposal, I
For
heard,
windows.
for windows.
Yeah, for windows,
So to
yeah.
get it done at the same time might make a lot of sense. So, it's a hard answer, but at some point, we're gonna put a stake in the ground and say, this is how much we can actually put in. And, like I say, I've said to Todd in the past, all right, you've got a mower here and a plow, which one do you want? Because we're not gonna put both in.
Yeah.
And that's why he's coming back with things again this year, and those are the kind of decisions we make, so, I would think this board, and you're saying the right things, should make sure of the need. if you don't feel comfortable with that and you want more information before you say, sign off on it, I agree with that.
Like the signs, I mean,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
$100,000.
Yeah, so I
out
would,
there.
yes, absolutely, the signs is something that has an impact on the community, and you wanna make sure it's the right kind of sign. That you should hold off on, I agree. Trucks, fire safety, public, stuff like that.
Yeah, move those
You
forward,
move
yeah.
them along,
Yeah.
and then they all get thrown in the pot, and they all get evaluated together against
Yeah.
Board of Ed,
Right.
against other priorities, Board of Ed. And like I say, we have a number of funding sources available to us. I mean, there's grants, there's LOSA, there's ARPA, there's funding from the general fund, there's ambulance funding, so there's various options that we can work, and then we actually put together lease packages with it. A lot of this stuff is very leasable,
Yeah.
so that you may think that, wow, this is like $500,000 worth of equipment here, but it shrinks down when you do it into a 5-year lease.
Yeah.
It becomes affordable, but you have to measure what we have leased already against
But it
that.
takes away future capacity. But no, I know,
Yeah.
I mean, definitely. No, I agree, so.
So, I wouldn't worry so much about the funding source. I think that's really the worry and the purview of CIP and the Board of Finance. You just make sure you get in there what you feel you want in there, and then advocate for it, in those meetings. And then understand
How do we
in the end-
advocate for it in the meeting?
well, your Todd and John Roach, they advocate, we actually make them present, everything, along with their quotes and, at CIP and their
Justify
questions
the
there,
need, yeah.
so.
So we're moving forward about, I mean, I just did this rough, we're moving forward, if we pull out, the ones I would like to pull out are the 2 signs and the animal control for now. And I think if you put all the other ones together, again, I just did this in 10 seconds off the top of my head, it's about $500,000 that we're
It is.
moving forward. So I mean, are you okay with that, pulling those 3? And I mean, moving forward, $500,000 is a pretty significant number of CIP projects. So everything except those 3 would move forward. These 3 would stay here for further discussion, they may get approved later, they're just not in the first round, you know?
That's fair. Like I said, I would like to go back to the LED signs. I'm not so worried about the animal truck thing I would like the LED signs and kind of.
We get some good public input, though, that's important.
Yeah. And like I said, the more research you can bring to us, and you can show us examples, and you can show people in town what you'd actually be getting, and then, that it wouldn't be Vegas again, so that would be fine.
Well, it's the start of the conversation, there's not a rush, there's no emergency.
Right.
So it's not like the fit tester where it's busted and we need one.
Right.
It's an enhancement, and,
Right.
So we have some time.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd make a motion then to approve items, CIP items, A like Alpha, B like Bravo, E like Edward, F like Foxtrot, G like Golf, H like Henry, I like Ida, J like John, K is in Kilo, L is in Lima, M is in Mary, N is in Nancy, and P is in Peter. So that's all of the projects except for C, D, and J. So I would, C and O, you're right, it's section J.
CD and
Oh.
O, yeah, I got it.
Yeah, O is it. So I would make a motion to approve those projects.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Next is me again, requesting permission to hire a on-call seasonal plow operator. This is, we interviewed for this position. This is a non-CDL position. This would ostensibly be the parking lots. We have a candidate, Kyle Young, who has experience, he is a diesel mechanic. He's also experienced in plowing and heavy truck experience. He works in, he lives in Stafford, and has worked for Travel America, so he knows his way around vehicles. This would fill our last remaining open position for plowing this winter, and this is an on-call seasonal.
Sounds like a good find.
Yeah, he's young, but he's,
That's his last name, yeah.
Oh, geez.
seems like a go-getter.
Yeah.
No pun intended,
Excellent,
huh?
yeah.
So would this be the $20 an hour rate?
23.
23?
Yep.
Yeah, it says that there at the bottom of it.
So the motion should
Oh,
have the
I'm
rate.
sorry, I
include the
apologize.
rate.
You
So
don't have the paper in front of you, how do you know?
The motion should include the name and the position and the rate.
Yep.
Yes.
Somebody wanna make that motion?
Yeah, I'd be happy to make that motion to hire Kyle, let's see, Young,
Correct.
and for a, seasonal, on-call seasonal plow operator at $23 an hour.
Second?
Any discussion, further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Next is we were approached by the town of Ellington to possibly share a recycling coordinator. They hired this gentleman on a part-time basis to help with their recycling program. I sent you their information and what they're proposing. This would be a joint venture between Ellington and East Windsor. They'd like to make this individual full-time, and to do that, would require the other two towns to step up, essentially. Ellington would be the host town, and then he would work for Ellington, under all their HR rules. His position is to monitor recycling and waste, reduction programs and activities in each town. He's also communicating with the waste collectors and resolving resident complaints, and explaining waste collection procedures to our residents.
What kind of complaints do you get? I was just curious, you mentioned resident complaints.
Well, what he does is he tags mostly recycling bins.
Yeah.
If people are putting trash in the recycling bins, he'll go out and tag them.
So the complaints are not resident complaints, they're his complaints as the regulator.
Right, well, it's a state law that we're supposed to be,
Yeah, but
So essentially, we're hiring someone though to regulate and go around and check people's bins to see what's in them?
well,
And
that
tag-
and also the.
tag your recycling
Yeah, you
bin to say
get
that
tagged, you get red
it
tag,
shouldn't be
but you
picked
first you
up.
get a green tag, and then a introduction about, recycling and proper waste disposal procedures, and if you continue to put trash in recycling, you get a red tag and potentially a fine, although I don't know if it would ever get to that.
Does the red tag mean they don't pick up your
They will not pick up your trash.
Well, that's a good thing. If you're done,
Recycling.
I give people credit. If you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Now, because of the hybrid nature in summers, as I had told the two directors, the East Windsor and Ellington director, I'm not sure how well this would work in summers because you pay for your trash service at your house.
Exactly.
It's
Oh,
not like the other two towns.
$395?
Oh, is that what it is? I see,
Yeah,
yeah.
well,
Yeah,
if
it's not
you get trash
for-
bins at your house, you're
It's not
paying
for
for them to
disposal.
come to your house.
Yeah, I don't
Right.
do that.
It's just
What you
pickup.
put in is the town pays for.
Saves you a
But
trip.
have
to
the
come.
truck come. The
Yeah.
other part of it is the public education outreach in the schools and also, doing PR about recycling and what is in and what is out for recycling. That would be valuable to Summers.
Yeah, you're right.
Um,
So you gotta kind of balance what you're getting here.
Yeah,
$30,000.
it's $30,000 and it's also, he's gonna be going out and looking in people's recycling bins. There's gonna be some concern about that.
I would think
For
Current
sure.
visitors. But I
mean,
said I would bring it to the board to consider.
I mean, I'm all for
Yeah,
recycling, and I think it's great. I think the state's been pushing it
Frankly,
for
I
30
think
years.
if we were gonna do something like this, I would rather hire somebody for our transfer station to help residents and be an outreach coordinator, to be at the transfer station when they're coming in, they
That's
don't
the
know where to
best,
put
that's the
stuff.
best time to educate them,
or,
not when you put a red tag
But then
on
also
a
to work in
bucket.
the schools and do presentations
Yeah.
on recycling and things like that.
And I
I'm
guess
not
that's
sure
the
that
question, what's the ROI here, what's Summers
No,
gonna
exactly.
get? I mean, it
Yeah,
seems like some
probably a lot of
vague,
staff.
Gonna get a lot of complaints.
well, it seems like some really vague, it seems very vague to me, like, I'm gonna do outreach, like, when you do like TV commercials,
Well,
how do you do outreach?
I think education is really important,
Right.
and I think
Yeah.
that you guys have done a good job at that with regard to putting the brochure together and
Yes, we do
and
brochures
trying to
here and-
talk to people when they come in there and explain to them what's good, what's not bad. Sometimes they don't wanna listen, sometimes they don't like what they hear.
Right.
But, it's a tough job. I mean,
Yeah,
you
quite.
but it's,
And he's doing a great job in Ellington, but again, the town pays for everything, so it's a bit different. In summers, you're paying for people, for the waste hauler to come to your, pick up your
So that's a
bins.
different story there, yeah.
I don't know how this would be received.
You gotta make a brochure, so that's one day's worth of work, so,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do
Well,
for the
and also
other?
the outreach and the updating the website and the stuff that we're not doing.
So maybe we're up to 3 days a week, what are we, a year, 3
Well,
days
it'll
a
be
year.
shared, so, it's
how
free
many
time.
how many households get their,
Well, we
waste
sell about
picked up?
2,200 permits a year, and we have about 4,300 households in summers, so.
But a lot of
Yes,
people
would be
a lot of people
roughly-
pay for permits and also
Right.
have their trash picked up at the house.
I don't know, we don't have that information because we're not the ones paying for the contract for the service.
We got
For the
the
household
data
service?
from
It'd be interesting to
USA
hear.
Hauling a couple of years ago. It's
Well, we get a report every year on the tonnage and the tipping and all of that. As far as the number of households that have opted in, I
To
don't have.
subscribe, yeah.
They
No,
should know that, 'cause they send
I
them
remember,
bills,
'cause
they send them bills.
They know, yeah.
Yeah.
they
I was a
know.
proponent of going curbside for everybody. I remember USA Hauling giving us a list of like, this was, how many people they've contracted with in town and this, and we were able to get some of that data. It's been a few years now.
Yeah, we looked at doing it. It was about 450,000 more a year to
Yeah.
do it if the town took over the entire cost.
Yeah.
But that would be every household.
Right.
And you'd have some savings, cause you'd probably change the hours at the transfer station and it would sacrosanct, but if everybody has curbside pickup, you probably don't.
If you
be open
dare,
as often as
right.
we are.
Well,
So, I
believe
mean, I
me, I'm a cheap person, and I like still bringing my stuff.
I know, well,
down.
we'd still be open, but not like we are now.
I guess what I'd say, I mean, I would recommend we take no action, but I'm generally not in favor of this. I mean, I think that it,
Frankly,
not a bad
neither am
thing.
I, honestly, but I said I would bring it to you because of.
I don't see the benefit.
Well, I think we should take action, meaning, I think we should say this is not
we're not in.
something we're interested in at this
Okay.
time.
That's
I would
fine.
agree with you.
Okay, I'm fine with
We need a
that.
motion?
What's the motion, I guess?
That we're not going to, enter in a joint
To
venture
not,
with.
okay, so I'll make a motion that we do not enter into an agreement, with the
Town
town
of Ellington
for, shared
and
services.
East Windsor.
Recycling.
Okay.
Second,
Second?
Oh, sorry.
all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Lastly is the Bpw Budget Presentation, which I sent to everyone.
Mhm.
Um,
That was, very thorough.
we should go over it, page by page. If you like, the first page is the summary.
To be honest with you, Todd, I think, unless people, like, I went over and saw you because I had questions,
Yep.
but I think I'd like you to, just to go over the first page. I mean, there's a lot here.
There's a lot of information.
And to me, I don't know if I wanna go, to be honest with, since I did read it very carefully and I went over with you, I don't know if I wanna go over 40 pages of information.
Right.
But I do thank you for spending the time with me and helping the handicap,
Oh, you're welcome.
because it helped me understand exactly where the expenses were coming from, and you explained all the paperwork for me, because I just didn't know how it worked.
Right.
And so you made it clear to me, so thank you very much for your time.
Looking at the, first page, which is a summary, the drivers there, really the takeaway, the drivers are energy and trash.
Well, health services is up 27%.
Health services, that's a driver from the new federal, clearinghouse law, which came out, if you remember a couple of years ago, there was a commercial driver that was driving in New Hampshire, lost his license, came down to Massachusetts, driving in Massachusetts, and wiped out a bunch of bikers and killed
Yes.
some.
Yes, I do remember
Well,
that.
he was able to drive in Massachusetts because the states never communicated with each other. So
Yes.
they created this federal clearinghouse law,
Mhm.
where every employer of commercial drivers now must annually, pull the driving record of everybody in your employ that has a CDL. And there's a cost for that, obviously. We had to join the federal clearinghouse, and we also have to have a vendor. Foley is our, drug services vendor, so we hired them as our vendor in order to do this. That was the biggest driver of the health services
Okay,
bump.
that's pretty easy, okay.
Well, clearly, to me, Todd, from looking at this, there's three things that we don't have, the three biggest ticket items, the, utilities, vehicle fuel, and waste disposal. Really, we're at the mercy of the suppliers at this particular point.
Correct, and this budget is based off of last year's actual, costs as well as this year's actual costs. Utilities have gone, water, we had a little bump, electric's gone up a little bit, but liquid fuels is the driver. Right now.
These are uncontrollable items, basically.
Yes.
They are,
exactly.
we bid out our liquid fuels, gasoline, heating oil, and diesel fuel, and we're part of, the, regional education
Purchase.
services. We should be getting the bids back at the end of this month, so know what the per gallon price is. Right now, we're paying about $1.57, which was a great contract we locked into. It's gonna be a lot more than that,
I couldn't believe when I saw you at $1.57.
We the last couple of years, we did phenomenal, energy.
Good
I'm
night.
paying
Stealing.
$2.01.
Yeah, well, I based this budget on $2 a gallon, I think that's low. I
Yeah.
don't know what it's gonna be yet until we get the
futures,
pricing
yeah.
back.
I had to look at that 3 times to say
Yeah.
$1.57, I
Did
mean,
you
you
hear
don't
him
pay.
say that he based the budget on $2 a
Yeah,
gallon?
if you look, I
Yeah.
have 2 columns under
Could
the
be low.
energy, and the first is what we're actually spending, and the second is what I'm basing this budget on, $2 a gallon for these liquid fuels. It's probably gonna be more. I don't know where we're gonna
I
end
think
up.
I budgeted $2.14 for
Yeah.
gasoline, $2.01 for diesel.
So we'll hopefully the end of this month we'll know, and then I'll put the new numbers in and send you the budget revisions.
It's such a volatile time, I mean,
It is.
it's not a good time to budget.
bid.
Yeah.
And then the waste disposal, that's.
Waste disposal is contract. That's a 3-year contract. We're into the 2nd year with this budget, for waste disposal. And that is the tipping fees, and it's part of the monthly report I send to you every month. The last 2 pages of the budget, the first is expenses, and then the second is revenue. The expenses are bulky waste, our MSW, which is trash, and then our recycling. Curbside is the amount we pay for tipping for the curbside that's picked up from people that opt into having curbside pickup in town. And then we have dumpsters around town, and the town hall dumpsters are our town hall and firehouse and senior center.
And you only get one bid, right?
We only got one bid when we did an RFP.
It's basically a monopoly situation.
Well, it's trash, and Summers is challenged in that it's a hybrid system, whereas most towns will do a contract for all of the services, which includes curbside. Summers, we don't do that. If you own a property and you wanna get curbside, you have to pay for that service. It's $300 and something.
$395.
Oh, it went up that much, okay.
Yes.
And then it's,
Yeah, oh yeah.
what you put in
I
the
was shocked.
can, is the town pays for that under state law. But you having the truck come to your house, you pay for that. That's a hybrid. It's a very unusual system. So there's not many people that would bid on it. Frankly, it would have the strength to bid on it, and it's too small for like a Waste Management that's a multinational billion-dollar corporation. It's too strange for Willimantic Waste unless they really wanted to get some other towns, and they'd have to staff up because they're fairly well at capacity. So there's not a lot of players that could even bid on it.
And Willimantic's a fair distance from Summers.
It is, and they'd have to pick up probably Ellington and, East Windsor or some other town to make it worth their while, because then they'd have to buy more trucks and staff and what have you. So it's tough. It's not like you can go out to bid and get, 5 different bidders on it. There's not
Can we-
that many players.
Can we get them to come and talk to the board about some of the things that are driving these huge increases that the residents are seeing in their bills? I mean, I guess my question is, if we absorb the big increase in tipping, which is 25%, that's a huge, and that's national. Just read any newspaper, you see what's going on there. But fuel has been pretty stable. There was a big spike 3 years ago. It's gone up a little bit recently, but
It was $80 a barrel.
I think they
You-
would be glad to do that. I know Tom will reach out to
Well,
them.
yeah.
I'll contact them on
But
that.
I think you're gonna find out that their margin is really not increasing, they're just passing costs along, so.
But how are we going up $100 in 3 years?
It's just, there's a lot of things, and they'll be able to explain to a
We've
lot
gone
better
up
than I can.
40%,
I've heard their presentation, you probably need to listen to it firsthand.
I agree, yeah, I agree.
Well, one of the things
Well,
is,
that's
remember
something
the
the public
Chinese,
might be interested in, so
Yeah.
maybe we could do that
Yeah.
at a Board of
We'll
Selectmen.
do it
Remember
at
when
Board
the-
of Selectmen meeting,
remember
yeah.
when the Chinese pulled out of the trash market?
That's one of the issues.
That's one of the big things.
But
and-
we're taking that cost, is my point.
That's correct.
The
And-
town's eating that.
Well, and what's happened though is the cost across the country has gone up in trash removal because of what's happened in that. So, like you said, they'll
No
explain
place
it.
to put it.
But we have to put it somewhere.
Well, they're putting it somewhere and it's costing
But the
you
$3.95 I'm paying pays for the truck and the person that picks it up, and that's it.
Right. The town pays for the tipping.
The town pays the tipping, so what's gone up, labor's gone up, yes, but has it gone up that much?
Well, the tipping fee is also problems with the Hartford, landfill.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
fact they need to ship more out of state.
Gotta go to
places like
Pennsylvania.
But that's what we're paying here.
Right.
That's right.
That's not
the
why
tip-
my bill went
What
up
you're
the
asking
tipping
is
fee.
why is the service to come to your house gone up?
Gone
Right.
up 25%.
Well,
in a
they
year.
could probably itemize it for you.
Yeah,
Well, that's what people would like to hear.
people would love to hear
I'll
that.
reach out to USA and ask if they can do a
Yeah,
presentation.
yeah.
That'd be helpful.
Yep.
So that's fuel. I don't know if we have any other questions. As we get to the end, we get into road maintenance, everybody's favorite subject.
You said that you told me the other day that the actual roads that are gonna be in the,
Right, I'll do a separate presentation on,
No, that's what I'm
the
gonna-
road survey.
cause I do have a bias, cause my road's falling apart, so.
Uh-oh.
There's some special treatment here.
The road maintenance fund, page
I told them
23, is
that.
a special revenue fund, and this is where, it's also, where we take out like road salt and tree work and catch basin cleaning and, you know, road projects and asphalt for pavement repairs. We moved it to a special revenue fund. It works well because things like, if we have a bad winter, we need to buy more salt, then we have the money there for that. And if we don't have a bad winter, then that money we would have used on salt is available for road maintenance, which we
Oh,
can use
good.
for road projects.
That's great.
It's a
Under
fund that
state
turns
statute,
over every
we have
year.
to put that in a separate fund.
What page are you on there?
All that
23.
car money.
23, I'm sorry.
County road.
And frankly, road maintenance season doesn't start July 1.
And that's another problem we had in the past, is because it's, the fiscal year is right in the middle of construction
Yeah.
season.
You
And
lose
it's-
half of the year.
Well, we might do work in June, but we don't get billed until July, so it's a nightmare for finance to try to, for budgeted line items.
Yeah,
to
that's
try to-
just not good.
No, it's not a good fiscal year from that respect.
Well, you can't do it, you don't have a legal appropriation until July 1, so
Yeah.
I mean, you really
Well,
can't.
that
do
helps
it.
explain it, because people in my
Yeah.
neighborhood was asking, why do these guys not, you know, start in May or June?
Yeah,
And
This is
now
how
I,
it's funded.
yeah, now I understand.
Invoice or
Yeah.
something?
Just, we didn't know.
Yeah.
Or post dated?
I see on page 24, the Applewood Drive drainage and paving is $310,000.
Yep.
That sounds like a lot of money for,
That would be the
that road.
reconstruction of the boulevard, which is rotting from the bottom up, on Applewood Drive, is to put drainage in, to dig it all out, put drainage on both sides.
So what do you mean the boulevard's rotting?
Well, Applewood Drive is two essentially, separated by this, so we call it a boulevard, but
Okay.
it's two separate roads essentially.
Mhm.
That goes over a watershed that, there's drainage there now, but it's partially filled and it's not very complete.
Mhm.
So the road is falling apart from the bottom up.
Yeah, I've heard people complain about that.
We did, Jeff Ford, to his credit, actually spearheaded the effort on the, to do all the engineering, that's ready to go. I have an RFP written and ready to go out to bid.
Oh,
This
good.
is opinion of probable cost. This would be funded through some other mechanism. We don't have the funding as, right now. It could come out of the bonding that we have left over. But everything we do is subject to the price of oil. Like the past road resurfacing we did, we hit it at a great time.
You did,
Oil
yeah.
was low, we did a
You
lot
really
more than
did.
we expected to. We still have a good chunk of money left, so we can do more. Oil's a lot higher than it was that time, so
Yeah.
we're gonna have to see how far the dollar's gonna stretch.
Mhm, mhm.
And that, whatever we can't do will also kind of inform when we go for a bond next time, or look for other funding to do some of this, some of these road projects. Some of these have to be done. The Watchat Road culvert replacement has to be done this coming year. That's been washed out twice. We did an emergency bridge repair last year with all the rains, cause it washed it out.
Yeah, it
If
was
it washes
closed
out
for-
again, we're gonna lose the road.
It was closed for a while, wasn't
It
it?
was closed cause it washed out.
Yeah.
It's an emergency repair, we've gotta fix that this year.
Yeah, you do,
You know, these are things that have been ongoing and really need attention.
Okay.
No, you got a good handle on this.
Great list, Doug.
So I guess, Todd, that's all with the budget, right?
Yes, yep.
So I guess a few questions I have overall global. Number one, it'd be very helpful, and probably finance can provide it for the future budgets, if we could see, I see the budgeted amounts here, but I wanna see actuals.
Yeah, so I ordered binders, cause I like to give you guys each
Yeah.
binder with all of this data in it by department, overall budgets and everything, the binders didn't come in.
Cause I want us to see like the transfers and things, so like
Yeah, you'll
accounts that
see-
have big
you'll see
transfers in the
2 year
past.
ago
and-
actuals, current year
Perfect.
actuals,
Oh, okay.
budgeted numbers
That would be
and
good.
everything.
That would be
That's
helpful.
good, cause the budget number is not obviously as helpful as the actual.
Right, the actuals are very helpful.
And then Todd, I mean, we're looking at things, I mean, there's two big themes this year with departments, you know, number one, zero-based budgeting, and number two, you know, data-driven decision-making. So, I mean, I'm just curious as to what initiatives or things, you know, I mean, we always hear in government about increases, I mean, everybody always wants more money. I mean, I guess, you know, where are we seeing efficiencies, where are we seeing cost savings? Now we're in the future, you know, what are we doing, you know, collaboratively, and I know you've already explained a lot of these things, but I mean, just kinda give me a little flavor of where we can find that in the budget.
Efficiencies in the budget, we've worked on that the last 5 years. Frankly, we've, de-siloed, if you'd like. Honestly, when I started, most departments were their own island. In the last 5 years in particular, Public Works has gotten involved in every department, and what they're doing and what's going on in their departments and working on their facilities. That's a big part of what we do.
It is.
working collaboratively
So you save other departments money by doing things
Oh,
for them?
absolutely, instead of
Yeah.
having to go out to vend or
That's what I
whatever.
figured,
We've done
yeah.
things, we've bid out all of the paper products in town, supply them for every department in town. We bid out the cleaning, which we'll do
Yeah.
again in the coming year, I think I mentioned that in this budget. So we've taken over a lot of that, we also taken over a lot of the energy spend,
Right,
and energy
Heat,
purchasing in
utilities.
every department versus it wasn't doing. Same thing with things like the underground tanks at the library and the firehouse, we spearhead that, those have to be inspected every year, the Vita root systems have to be inspected and they have to be maintained every year, we do that as well with our vendors, so there's a lot of efficiencies that we do in our day-to-day life, if you would, that we've done over the last 5 years, particularly like the firehouse, Hvac and repairs that we've made at the firehouse, that's been both in kind with DPW staff as well as vendors, and it's something that we work collaboratively with the fire department, constantly. I'd have to sit down and think about and really look at my email notes, frankly, to give you a list of what we've done over the last 5 years, but it's kind of like the reason I like to, I mean, I communicate with every director in town, just 'cause anytime anybody makes a decision, it's gonna have an effect on DPW some way, usually.
I would say that, just to summarize what you're saying, is that you've centralized a lot of what used to be decentralized.
Yes,
correct.
And in that have gotten efficiencies of scale,
Yep.
Significant.
measurable
Yes.
efficiencies.
Obviously.
And this is the first year of this significant increase, and it's trash and energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we see it,
This
yeah.
is the first
Public
year I've
Works
seen
is-
an increase in vehicle fuel in, what, 4 years?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we run very, very tight to the bone.
Well, you
No,
know.
you do a good job. You provide great leadership, and I think, and that's part of it, and, you know, I asked the question not to like grill you, I asked the question because I think a lot of times we don't tell the story.
Right.
I think the story's there, we need to tell the story to our taxpayers, to, you know, to everyone, the efficiencies, I mean, and that was the point I was hoping you brought up, is the diesel, I'm sorry, the fuel, because that's a place departments bury money,
Yeah.
you know, and then they try and transfer it at the end of the year to their slush fund.
Right.
You know, well, we took that out of the department, you know, particularly the library and the fire department, we took it out of there, and now we can see it transparently,
Right.
you know, what it's for, it's not in the department, it's there, so it's between you and Mike on a global level. So,
We
I
also
think,
work with the Board of Ed a lot.
with the Board of Ed a lot,
They're short-staffed as well, frankly, in their janitorial and grounds and roads. We support them for winter operations, they plow their own
Yep.
lots, but when they get overwhelmed, we plow them and we'll salt them. We also do a lot of
That's good.
in-kind services, paving, groundwork, we'll also put in fields if they get short-staffed. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that the public wouldn't see on a day-to-day basis, that is, we're always working together with every department.
The fuel for the school buses, we actually provide the fuel.
We provide the
for-
fuel.
A lot of towns, they buy the whole package from the school bus company, so you're at mercy as to what they're getting for.
Yeah.
We actually work together
And we
with
do
the
a fuel
Board of Ed.
report with every department each
Yeah.
month.
Yeah.
I'll do the master report, then my assistant will put it in taxes.
That's
That way every
tremendous.
day it gets sent out to every department that uses fuel.
That's your economy of scale comes in.
That's great.
Right.
Correct.
no, Shared Services, you've done a great job with that, and I mean, you'll see, I think this board, certainly when I was on the Board of Finance too, I mean, pushing that though, I mean, is our job as well, you know, to the Board of Ed and to the others, that this is something we value, and this is something we're gonna fund, because a taxpayer dollar is a taxpayer dollar, whether it's spent at the schools or whether it's spent here, it's providing services to our residents.
Well, of course.
So I applaud you, I think you've been a leader here in town as far as encouraging that collaboration, encouraging those efficiencies, you know, and I mean, even with the HVAC, you know, the Board of Ed is working with you on the HVAC, that hasn't happened in the past.
Right.
You know, that's new. So I think that those are all great positive things, and we need to make sure we tell that story.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Could I ask a silly question? Some people in town have asked about solar, you know, on the public buildings, and, I don't know, I'm ignorant of that. How many buildings in town have?
We have solar on the public works, on the police, department, on the fire department, and on the elementary school.
Is there any, I'm just asking a silly question, is there any potential for any more solar to be,
Possibly, we're working with two companies that are looking at two different projects. The
Mhm.
solar, the financial has gotten out of it, let's say. There was
Yeah.
a huge push about 8 years ago from
Uh-huh.
the state for solar, and they made a lot of tax credits
Yeah.
available to the vendors to make
Yes.
it worth their while.
I didn't
We
know
did-
if with the new federal funding,
That's a good question. There's a lot of questions about the new infrastructure bill.
That's
all I
Nobody
know
knows
about
what
it.
it's gonna look like.
Right, but
They
I'm
sent
just,
some
I'm
guidance
just,
out today, they sent 453 pages out today.
well, I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
yeah, we have a
that's,
final.
that's what raised
They
it out, and I
finally sent it.
understand
I
it's a
haven't read
huge
it, but-
document. and it would, and we, you know, a lot of people haven't had a chance to go through it, but that might be something we could look into.
Oh, absolutely, we're
yeah.
actually looking at, we have two companies looking, one at possibly doing a lease on the landfill, and this is very preliminary, I haven't brought it to you.
Sure.
They haven't got back to me yet.
Yep.
And it would be a straight lease to use property on top of the landfill for their own solar, which would be something I would favor as long as it's a financial boon to the town.
Sure.
We've done purchase power agreements in the past, and frankly, I'm not a fan of them, the way they were structured. There's pros and cons to them. We'd wanna take a hard look at anything like that. We looked at doing canopies at the firehouse and at the police station. Neither one of them makes sense because of the sites, and they're really not big enough. We looked at building our own solar at the landfill, and again, it's too small, and there's also caps. We have that 5 megawatt system at, Jeff Lifton's property behind us.
Sure.
There's also the
Bilton Road.
Bilton Road, and there's only so much solar you can do in any town for the
Okay.
municipal side.
Okay.
Private is different.
Okay.
So it gets into, it's complicated, I don't understand it all.
Solar
We have to
is
bring in people that,
beyond
that live in that world. that
Yeah, it
really
is
know
kinda
what they're
crazy,
talking
yeah,
about.
yeah, they've out-regulated themselves.
And it changes every year too, and what is gonna come down from the Fed for funding, it will be filtered through some state agencies to the town.
Sure.
What will that look like? I don't know
I
yet.
think we'd have
Okay.
a fair amount of time to spend that money too.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for the answer,
Sure.
but I, I was,
As is the complicated equation of all that, you have to understand the impact that it has on the load, the electric load that
Right.
you are using in town.
uh-huh,
You have the transmission and distribution, which you pay Eversource, but you also have generation, which you pay the supplier, like in our case, it would be Constellation. So you guarantee them a certain load on a long-term contract,
oh,
and they give you a favorable rate per kilowatt hour. You may ruin that entire agreement and the economics of it if you go too much solar and bleed off some of that generation from solar. So you have to weigh the economic impact of the two also.
oh, that's very complicated, I
It
didn't
is
realize.
extremely
Yeah.
complicated, I get, yes.
Yes,
And
it
they're
is.
trying to push it now with the rates
They,
being
well,
high,
CCM keeps coming up with stuff. And
but the vendors are, so you get, now is not a good time
So
to,
we actually have a consultant who helps us, pro
Yeah.
bono, he's a resident of town, you know,
Oh, really?
Eric.
Well, that's good, that's good.
And
Who's
he,
that?
Eric Ness, he helps us out with all this.
Okay.
Well,
His firm.
thank you, Todd, fantastic,
Yeah.
and thank you
Yeah,
too.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Todd, yeah.
so I guess this is the first budget, so I mean, I guess my question would be to the finance staff and to the board, I mean, what's our process for the other departments? I mean, I think there may be reductions we'd make right here, not that I'm proposing any today, but I'm saying for future budgets, you know, we may make reductions right here. I think that would be the right time to make some of them. I mean, there's gonna be some deductions in front of us that are obvious.
Yep, during the individual department meetings, absolutely, and then once all the budgets are in and you have a collective budget, and you start looking at what's your percentage cap that you're thinking of, what you know, and you start reviewing, looking through some of these again and go, okay, you know, we really like this, but
Yeah.
we need to save $50,000, so we're gonna
Right.
chop this portion out.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a moving wheel the entire time. It doesn't stop until you finally make a vote to send it to Board of Finance.
Yeah, in other words, you're gonna take more than one cut at all this.
Yeah.
We'll be
No,
coming
agree.
back again,
Clearly.
yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, with the new board, and I mean, we have many new directors, I just wanna make sure that we're clear after this first one, this is kind of the process
Yep.
that we're gonna follow, and, you know, I think you'll, like as a recorder, you'll keep track of cuts that we make here,
Yep.
the proposed budgets, and, you know,
Yep.
we'll keep
I'll
a
have-
central.
I'll have my learning spreadsheet, the entire time, so any cuts going on, you know, actively in the meetings, I'll be up.
But you have copies of every budget from every department right now.
The ones that have been submitted, yes.
Well, I think we should have, I mean, at this point in time, I mean, we should have everything.
What's coming up next Wednesday?
Next Thursday is, finance, town clerk, and tax, and like 3 or 4 small departments. I think there's one more in there. They're the smaller town hall, departments.
Assessor's office?
And then the Thursday after that is fire,
Yeah, I got it right here, it's, cause next week it's tax, finance, town clerk, land use,
land use, that was the 4th.
and, then the 20th is Mr. Roche, and then we have IT, selectmen,
He wanted it in February.
yeah, so, that type of thing, yeah. So, you gave it to us.
Yep.
But I just wanna make sure that, you know, like, finance has a copy of the budget, and that finance is the
Yep.
one tracking
So all of
reductions
these-
and increases.
All of these were, right, so I'm updating my master budget document with these as well. And all of these are coming to me first. I sat down today with Maureen, in recreation for close to 2 hours.
Good.
Wow.
Going through her budget, you know, looking at what she's requesting, things like that. I think next.
The land use is gonna need a lot of help next week.
Yeah, land use, I actually have to sit down with Jen one day next week. We still haven't hammered out a final
I
budget.
think finance should make the budget for that department, since there's no director. I mean,
Right,
think
I was
finance should be
gonna, I was
the lead
gonna
on
sit
that.
with Jen Roy, cause she's the oldest member, I
Yeah.
guess you could say, the longest running member of
Sure.
that department, so she could give me an idea of their needs.
Yeah.
And I'll,
Agreed.
assist her in developing it. But other than that, I mean, I've got a meeting next Tuesday, I think, with John Roach, to sit down and go through his budget. You know, and line by line what their increases are gonna be, and so that's where we're at right now.
And then I also wanna be ready, I mean, so like, for instance, when we talk about the fire department budget, I mean, there's ambulance revenue to talk about. When we talk about the recreation budget, there's self-support funds to talk about. I mean, there's
Yep.
different pieces as well that, you know, I wanna make sure that we're ready, the directors are prepared,
Yep.
you know, 'cause there's a lot of moving parts.
Yep.
So, okay.
Great. So next on our agenda, we have, some minutes we need to approve. It's K1 and KB, KA, KB, and KC. The first, set of minutes are from our December 15, special meeting we had with directors. And, 4 o'clock meeting, as you may recall, at the fire station. And, they're very brief.
Get out of order here, I just wanna pull.
That's just the first page, just a half a page, basically.
Frank, can I ask you a silly question? Is there a Board of Finance meeting next Tuesday?
Tuesday, the 11th.
Tuesday, 11th. Thank you.
It's at 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the December 15th meeting as presented.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor of, accepting the minutes of December 15, say aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
The minutes have been accepted. Next set of minutes is December 16, 6 PM meeting here at Town Hall, Board of Selectmen.
For which one's this, the
This
16th?
is the 16th.
16th, yeah.
This is where we.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of the December 16th meeting as presented.
Second?
I can say that I've, reviewed these minutes, and I, except for a $sign that they missed on page, 6 or so, 4 or 5, page 4. I think they're in pretty good shape. And confirm with what we did that evening.
Good to hear.
I'm all set with them.
I'm fine with those two.
I'm ready to vote.
All those in favor of, supporting the minutes of December 16th Board of Selectmen meeting, say aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Minutes have been accepted. Next meeting is, December 21, Town Hall Conference Room. This is where we, dealt with the issue of the town sanitarian position replacement and, the newly elected town clerk's salary. And, we put some language in there, Selectman Meyer to reflect. It says the Board of Selectmen recommended before the next municipal election, there be consideration of establishing a salary for the position on the ballot, and also consider establishing a salary schedule.
So I'd just like to make an amendment to that, an addition to that, for that piece, to reflect my comments. So I'd like to add to that section that Mr. Meyer expressed his concern about, and I'll write this down, about setting a precedent, where the salary is determined following an election, for an elected official.
Right. I remember that's what you said, yeah.
Okay.
I just wanna make sure that's documented in the
Mhm.
minutes for a
Mhm.
future board, so that we understand that this was, you know, an area of concern that we identified, and that, you know, maybe this should not be used as a practice. So I guess the sentence, so again, I'll give it to you. Mr. Meyer expressed his concern about setting a precedent where the salary is determined following an election, for an elected official, in addition to the comments that are reflected in the minutes as well. So it would be an additional comment, or an additional sentence. Okay, so I would make a motion to approve it with that one correction.
Well, that's exactly what you said, so I think
Provide
it's
that
good.
language to us.
So I'd second that.
If you could read my writing.
Well, Brian, you got it, we'll get it, correct? So,
Yeah, we got it on the tape.
Okay,
Thank you.
yep, thank you.
All those in favor of accepting the minutes as amended for December 21, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Minutes have been accepted as amended. Thank you.
thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor of adjournment? It's 8:10.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Aye.
Thank you. Aye.